Hello, good evening, and welcome to Unacademy. UPSC Prelims 2026 is over. Let's look at the standard of the questions. Slightly difficult as compared to last year. In fact, some students are saying that this was the most difficult UPSC Prelims question paper ever since 2017. Whether that is correct, incorrect, what is our own assessment? There were some questions which were conceptual, some questions factual, some questions too factual, some questions conceptual, addition of questions such as on governance, decision making. There was a time in 2012, 13, 14 when in CSAT paper, decision making questions were asked. And this was considered to be a cakewalk for the aspirants because almost everyone would get these questions right. Similar decision making questions have appeared today, but not in CSAT, but in GS. And I'm sure majority of you would have gotten those questions right. But overall, if you look at the question paper, as I told you, I'll reiterate, slightly difficult as compared to last year, more difficult as compared to previous years. So our assessment is that the cutoff will be lower than last year. And the cutoff would be anywhere in the range of 80 to 83. Under no circumstances will the cutoff be more than 85. So if you are scoring in the range of 85 and above, 80 above, you should consider serious preparation for the mains examination. Don't worry about anything else. UPSC is going to release the provisional answer key. If there are some mistakes there, you can point out those mistakes, file representation, and get these options corrected. When that would happen, we'll have to wait and watch. So cutoff may not be more than 85. Cutoff may be in the range of 80 to 83. May get even lower, but it can't be more than 85. So if you're scoring 85 or above, consider serious preparation for the mains examination. And in this session, we will discuss all the 100 questions. We'll start with polity, then economy, then other subjects, and we will analyze all these 100 questions. Great. Okay. Great. But before we start, Unacademy has decided to reduce the subscription fee for our plus courses. And right now, for the next 99 hours, our plus subscription is available at 16,999. Go to our website should you wish to enroll with us. Use this code IAS English, and automatically you will get the lowest possible discount on our plus subscription. You can check with other students, other aspirants who have attempted this exam today, those who have prepared under our guidance, and you will realize that they have done spectacularly well in this examination. We have received mails, messages from large number of students, and they have done exceedingly well. There have been students who have attempted 80, 85, 93 questions as well. But whether that would translate into a place, a slot in the mains examination, I hope it does, and I'm sure it will happen. But our students, thankfully, with God's grace, have done exceedingly well in the prelims examination. And should you consider joining us for your CSE preparation, this is the opportune time because for the next 99 hours, our plus subscription is available at 16,999. And we are going to start Conquer Mains program from 31st of May. So Conquer Prelims, a 5-stage program which helped a lot of you in cracking the prelims examination, hopefully. And now a similar program for the mains examination is launched, and the classes will begin on the 31st of May. The highlights of this program, we will have your educators teaching you and evaluating the answers live, and at the same time handouts will be provided, crisp notes will be provided, and there will be 20 sessions by CSE 2025 toppers, all India rank 7, 10, 17, 29. They will take 20 sessions where they will train you in art of answer writing. So consider Conquer Mains should you wish to appear and prepare for the mains 2026. Okay, great. Let's look at question 44, polity. X was addressing a seminar on the meaning of the term law as provided under Article 13 of the Constitution. Let me know in the comment section what is the option that you have marked. X explained that the meaning of the term law in the Constitution of India was very comprehensive. It included ordinances, orders, and even rules and regulations. If you look at Article 13 of the Constitution, for example, this is the snapshot from my plus classes, where we have explained what is Article 13, Clause 3. The definition of the law includes ordinances, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification. Right? So, this is what X is saying at a seminar. But then Y pointed out that the term law in Article 13 also included custom or usage having in the territory of law the force of law. Custom usage having in the territory of India the force of the law. This is clear cut provision of Article 13, Clause 3, picked up from the Bare Act. So, who is right? Both X and Y here are right. But then look at this carefully. To which X was not convinced. So X is saying that the definition of the law under Article 13 includes rules, regulations, ordinances. Y says, yes, I agree with that. But it also includes customs and usages, to which X does not agree. So who is completely right here? Y. So is it X is correct in the interpretation of law, including the view of non-inclusion of custom, but customs are included? A is not the right answer. The view of Y that law included custom is not correct, but it includes custom, which is incorrect. The views of both X and Y are correct. X is also correct, but half. Y is also correct fully, because X says, I am not convinced that the definition of law under Article 13, Clause 3 includes customs or usages. So this cannot be the answer. So what is the right answer? The view of only Y is correct. That's the right answer. Right? Right? D. Ordinance is also included in the definition of the law. And my students would tell me that this is a topic that I teach. Look at the timestamp. Almost more than 65 to 67 minutes I devote in the plus class only on covering Article 13. I explain Article 13, Clause 1, Clause 2, Clause 3. Then there is an exception, Constitutional Amendment Act, which was inserted by the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, 1971. So this is the comprehensive understanding of Article 13, which is required to crack this examination. And this is where I loved UPSC when it asked this question. Because now ratifying the article numbers without understanding the context will not help you sail through this examination. This is Article 13. The question, the answer is D is the right answer. Okay? Great. Let's look at another question. Consider the following statements with reference to the Constitution of India. There is no article in the Constitution of India that specifies that the Constitution of India will be officially called the Constitution of India. You don't know. Maybe. But sir, you did not teach it. I taught this. Article 393, short title, this constitution may be called the Constitution of India. So there is no article in the Constitution that specifies that this constitution will be officially called the Constitution of India. It's incorrect. Second, there is no article in the Constitution of India that specifies that the Indian Independence Act 1947 and the Government of India Act 1935 stand repealed. Repeals. And this is where I stressed also. Indian Independence Act 1947, Government of India Act 1935 together are hereby repealed, Article 395. And that is where I have been telling my students, advising them ad nauseum that please take a look at the 3 Bare Act sessions that I've uploaded. And this is where you can get a lot of questions correct. So there is no article in the Constitution that specifies Indian Independence Act and Government of India Act stand repealed. There is an article. Now, there is no article in the Constitution of India that mentions 26 January 1950 as the date of the commencement of the Constitution. And some of you may have gotten this wrong. because the preamble talks about 26th November 1949. It does not talk about 26th January 1950. But preamble alone does not talk about it. Look at Article 394, commencement of the Constitution. And this is where I make a distinction between 26th November 1949 and 26th of January 1950. And this is where I specifically tell my students that there were some provisions of the Constitution which entered into force on 26th November 1949 itself. Articles related to citizenship, Article 367 onwards, so on and so forth. But, sir, which means there is no article which mentions 26 January 1950 as the date of the commencement of the Constitution. There is Article 394. So, what is the right answer? There is no correct statement. B is the right answer. Right or wrong? Right? Very good. But now listen to me carefully. Assume you did not watch the Bare Act lectures or you were not attentive during the classes. Can you make intelligent guess here? There is no article in the Constitution of India that specifies that the Constitution of India will be officially called the Constitution of India. Now, what do you think? Is it possible that the lengthiest constitution of the world would not have a provision which will say that this document will be called the Constitution of India? Logic. There is no article in the Constitution that specifies the Indian Independence Act and the Government of India Act 1935 stand repealed. We discuss also that during the transition period, when the Constituent Assembly was working on drafting the Constitution of India, which law was in force? Government of India Act 1935, Indian Independence Act 1947. So whenever a new law is passed, the previous laws are repealed by that law. You need examples? I'll give you examples. For example, a law, I forgot that law, the CEC law, Election Commissioners Law. There was a 1991 law and there was a law enacted in 2023. What did that 2023 law say? That the previous act of 1991 stands repealed. Logic. There is no article in the Constitution of India that mentions 26 January 1950 as the date of the commencement of the Constitution. Again, the logic. Then when would it be implemented? It may have been mentioned somewhere that this Constitution will enter into force on this particular date. And when we say that there are some provisions of the Constitution which will enter into force on 26 November 1949 itself, which means it's the Constitution which says that. And that is how you can arrive at the right answer. Right or wrong? Very good. Question 52. Which of the following statements about a zero FIR under the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita is or are correct? Something that we have been discussing numerous times. A zero FIR can be lodged at a police station, even though the place of commission of a cognizable, non-cognizable offense is outside the territorial jurisdiction of that police station. Now, zero FIR can be filed for cognizable offenses, not for non-cognizable offenses. The inclusion of non-cognizable offense makes it incorrect. The officer in charge of the police station where a zero FIR has been lodged may, with the permission of the competent authority, initiate a preliminary inquiry. Correct. Under zero FIR, it is obligatory for the informant to furnish information electronically. That is the case if e-FIR is filed, not for zero FIR. So what is the right answer? D, 2 only is the right answer. Have we covered this? We have covered zero FIR. What is zero FIR? Where is it mentioned? I think the screenshot that I've taken is half incomplete, but this is where we have explained the concept of zero FIR. Initially, in the Indian Penal Code, there was no such thing as zero FIR. Or in the CRPC, there was no such concept as zero FIR, but it was explicitly provided by BNSS. That's something that we have covered. So another third question is also done. Correct? Very good. Question number 48. Consider the following statements in respect of questions asked by the members in the Parliament of India. Unstarred questions are those to which a member desires an oral answer in the House. Starred, unstarred. What is a starred question? What is an unstarred question? What is a short duration question? Where do you need the written answer? Where do you need an oral answer? Can it be asked to private member as well, or can it be asked only to the minister? Can supplementary questions be asked when you are asking these questions? Everything is covered in the class. Unstarred questions are those to which a member desires an oral answer. That is a starred question. Starred questions are those to which a member desires a written answer. That's an unstarred question. So they have exchanged it. No supplementary question can be asked on an unstarred question. Correct? Because supplementary questions can be asked on starred questions. So there is only one correct statement. C is the right answer. Right? Any doubts as of now? Great. Now, Mr. X, a senior officer, was overseeing a critical vaccination program during a pandemic. This is where such questions can be asked if you have the knowledge of the laws, if you have the understanding of governance, if you have the understanding of civil services traits, neutrality, anonymity, transparency, accountability. Mr. X, a senior officer was overseeing a critical vaccination program during a pandemic. He found that a private service, now this also tells me the significance of English comprehension. So if you are preparing for the civil services exam and you want to attempt this exam in English medium, please don't attend classes which are in bilingual. I'm telling you honestly. There were some questions in this exam, in the prelims examination, which you could have answered if your English understanding comprehension is correct. Be that as it may, Mr. X, a senior officer, was overseeing a critical vaccination program during a pandemic. He found that a private service provider responsible for vaccine distribution was compromising on quality to make profits. Despite immense pressure to manage the issue due to vested interests, conflict of interest, vested interest, he raised his voice based on the principles of public administration, which he learned during various training programs attended across his career. He reported the issue to the appropriate vigilance authority. This is where the beauty lies. He is not going to the press. He is not organizing a press conference to raise this issue. Otherwise, you are becoming an activist. And halted the contract to ensure citizen welfare. Which one among the following principles of public administration was most strongly demonstrated by Mr. X's actions? Now, why is UPSC prefixing Mr. and not Miss? That's another matter. But be that as it may. Delegation. You are not delegating this responsibility to someone else. Esprit de corps from French. And this is where, if you're a student of public administration, you would have read this, but that's a sense of camaraderie. And this is not shown in the actions of this particular civil servant. Equity. Let's pause. Accountability should be the right answer. Because you are accountable to the public. You have to make this service provider accountable as well. If you are compromising on the quality to make profits, then to ensure that we are providing genuine services to the people and I'm accountable to the public as well, accountability is the right answer. You can arrive at an answer. Okay, great. 42. In a multi-ethnic district, multi-ethnic, maybe Cookies, Nagas, Metis, where both economic competition and historical grievances frequently led to community tensions. A flashpoint has arisen with a government decision to allocate land for a waste management facility near a tribal hamlet, sparking protests by the tribal community, which claimed that the land was sacred and critical to their cultural identity. This was a time when Nyamgiri Hills, the protest also happened. In Nyamgiri Hills protest, we have studied in the classes, the environmental activism. At the same time, urban residents and local industries supported the project. Urban population is not residing in this tribal hamlet. And industries will obviously support because this would be profit making. Citing severe solid waste challenges and health concerns due to a lack of proper disposal site. The conflict has escalated with road blockades, social media campaigns, and allegations of police excesses. As a responsible government official, now you're a government official, think like a government official. You are tasked with resolving the situation through mediation. That's the responsibility given to you. Ensuring a sustainable outcome that will balance environmental needs, tribal rights, and urban public health. You can't be biased in favor of one group and biased against another group. So, whatever decision you will have to take, whatever mediation that you will participate in, you will have to balance the competing interest of everybody, every stakeholder involved. Consider the following statements. A successful conflict resolution process must begin with acknowledging the cultural concerns of the protesting tribal community before discussing technical alternatives. 100%. When you have to solve a conflict, you don't have to put fire into it. You will have to douse the fires. And you have to acknowledge that tribal community, they have the rights. Article 29. Every section of the citizens. If you have a culture of your own, you have the fundamental right to protect, preserve, and conserve your culture. The government should move ahead with the project without delay to address urban health concerns which outweigh the sentiments of a small group. No ways. Don't go by what the government may be doing, but go by what you should do. Don't go by the reality, go by idealism. You can't roughshod your projects and bulldoze your projects. No, you can't do that. That's not how you're balancing the needs of the stakeholders. Creating a multi stakeholder dialogue platform, including tribal leaders, environmental experts, municipal representatives, to build mutual understanding and help de escalate tensions. Ideally, yes, maybe. Conducting an independent environment and social impact assessment and sharing findings transparently with both sides to facilitate evidence based decision making. This is a beautiful solution. So, two cannot be the answer. If two is not the answer, B, C, D automatically gone. The only option which is left is A. 1, 3, and 4 is the right answer. Right? Great. Miss X. Now the UPSC is based on equity. Miss X is a mid-level civil service official working in urban development department of a major city. Consider this is Bengaluru, major city. You are Miss X. Recently, she was involved in approving a contract for a public infrastructure project. A new community park is to be constructed. During the approval process, she received a piece of confidential information. Confidential. Indicating that one of the shortlisted contractors had a history of poor workmanship and allegations of corruptions in other cities. But highlight this point, though nothing had been legally proven. Nothing. The head of the department, Mr. Y, advised her not to disclose this information to the project committee or public because it could delay the project and damage the city's reputation. However, Miss X believed that withholding such information compromised transparency and public trust. You are Miss X, a mid level civil service official. You are involved in approving a contract for a public infrastructure project, and that entity is you received a confidential information that that entity has a history of poor workmanship and other corruption allegations, but none of them were legally proven. Your head of the department is telling you, don't do that. No, unnecessarily, the project will delay. What will you do? Immediately disclose the information to the project committee and the public. Public, then you are going for activism, which you should not do as a civil services officer. Recommend removing the contractor from the shortlist to protect the project's integrity. This is where some of you may have confusion. Third, propose a limited disclosure to an oversight committee while keeping the information confidential from public for the time being. 300% is right. But is it two or three or only three? This is where some of you may have doubts, confusion. What did you mention as the answer? If it is two, how can you recommend removing the contractor from the shortlist at the time when nothing has been legally proven? It would violate which polity concept, principles of the natural justice, doesn't it? So the only option which is correct is B, 3 only is the right answer. Right? Very good. Consider the following statements about the provisions pertaining to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in India. Provisions regarding the administration of the tribal areas in the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram are given in the fifth schedule of the Constitution. Fifth, sixth. Contains special administrative provisions for scheduled tribal areas in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram in Schedule 6 of the Constitution. So this is incorrect. Some tribes of India are entitled to exemption from paying income tax on certain incomes. You may not know. I'll tell you where I have taught this, but you may not know. So we'll pause this. The Constitution of India provides for the reservation of seats in panchayats for women belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Correct. All the three statements are correct. D cannot be the answer. There is only one correct statement, which may be the answer. There are two correct statements, that is statements 1 and 3. This cannot be the answer. Now, there are two correct statements that include statement 2, or there is only one correct statement. Reservation of seats for SCs, women, provided, discussed in the class. But recall the discussion we have had in the class when we discussed Article 2 of the Constitution. And there I told you that Sikkim was first admitted as an associate state and then as a full-fledged state. Article 2, Parliament may, by law, admit into or establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. And this is where the discussion that I was involved with, I told you that in Sikkim, they don't have to pay income tax. And there I further said that there are some tribes which don't have to pay tax on certain income. So some tribes of India are entitled to exemption from paying income tax on certain matters. 2 and 3. There are two correct statements, and that includes statement 2. So B, A is the right answer. Right or wrong? Great. Question number 49. Now, this is something I will agree I have not taught you. And in fact, I don't teach parliamentary committees because there are so many committees. Then if I teach every parliamentary committee, then the syllabus would never get over. But this is where I tell students that look at all those committees which are in the news. Read about them and you should be able to answer the questions. Read about one or two parliamentary committees. Some of the committees you would have read. And by looking at the provisions of these parliamentary committees, even if you have never read about this committee, you will still be able to answer this question. How? Consider the following statements about Committee on the Welfare of the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes of the Parliament of India. Although members of this committee are elected from both houses of the parliament, the chairperson of this committee is appointed by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. This is where you need to guess. Members are elected from both houses of the parliament. Chairperson of this committee is appointed by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. There are very few committees for which the chairman is appointed by the Rajya Sabha chairperson, whereas mostly this is done by the speaker of the Lok Sabha. So I don't know. Maybe this is correct, incorrect, I don't know. 20 members are elected by Rajya Sabha and 10 members by Lok Sabha. Most of the committees, they will have more members from Lok Sabha, less members from Rajya Sabha. So in this committee, there are 20 members from Lok Sabha, 10 members from Rajya Sabha. So I know this is incorrect, or I can guess. No minister except the Union Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment is eligible to be the member of this committee. In fact, when we discuss parliamentary committees or when you read about them, for example, we discuss parliamentary committee on, let's say, public accounts committee, estimates committee, committee on public sector undertakings, ethics committee, privileges committee, committee on subordinate legislation. These are the committees that we discuss. No minister is part of this committee. No minister is normally appointed to a committee. Even if you're a minister for social justice, you can't be the member. Members are elected for a fixed term of 2 years from the date they enter office. You know that the term for all these committees is 1 year. Now, you may hazard a guess that three statements are incorrect. There is no correct statement. There are two correct statements. There cannot be two correct statements. There is only one correct statement that includes statement two. No. There are four correct statements. No. Which means the only other option is there is no correct statement. Which means even here, the chairman is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Right or wrong? Great. Now we still need to wait for the official answer key released by the UPSC, and then we can either beg UPSC, please correct your options, or thank God, all of these questions are correct. So these were 10 odd questions from Polity that we had to discuss, and I'm sure uh, you would have at least got 8 correct questions out of these 10 in Indian polity. I'll now invite my colleague Shamsar to discuss economic questions, which I'm told economic questions were relatively easier as compared to the last year. Whether they were indeed, let's wait and watch and find out from Shamsar. But before I end this discussion, I want all of you, whoever is preparing for the civil services examination, and if you can afford coaching, I want all of you to come on an academy platform. We have got the serious, genuine teachers on our platform who will leave no stone unturned for you to crack this examination. And believe me, this is coming straight from my heart when I say this because I see my colleagues working so hard to put out content for you. And that content is genuine, required for this examination. You will not see any content put out by my colleagues on this channel or in our classes where we will waste your time. Even in polity, if I can tell you, or maybe I'll tell you sometime later because I don't want to waste your time. Sham sir, please come in now and discuss the economy questions.
Hello and good evening to everyone. Let's begin the discussion on the questions which have appeared in today's GS paper on the subject of Indian economy. Now, before I start the discussion, this is what I felt regarding the number of questions as well as the type of questions which have been asked. If you compare the number of questions compared to the previous years, the number of questions are much lower this year. If you put in, let's say, even the schemes under the subject of Indian economy, hardly around 14 to 15 questions are from this area. But traditionally, around 17 to 18 questions would be asked from this. Second, very important point is some of the important areas which I'm pretty sure all of you have studied, revised, such as monetary policy, some of the concepts associated with agriculture sector, financial market, etc. A lot of them have been skipped by the UPSC this year. Let's start the discussion now. Question number 77. An e-commerce revenue model where the seller has control over the pricing but doesn't keep the products in the stock and instead transfers the customer orders and shipment details to a third party supplier who then ships the goods directly to the customer. This model is option A, drop shipping model. Out of all the types of, right, let's say the e-commerce models, this is one such type of a model. Question number 78. Which one of the following correctly represents the key sub indices of the Financial Inclusion Index or FI index of Reserve Bank of India? The FI index has been there in the discussion for some time now. But the question that has been asked is the parameters or the three dimensions which are there as a part of FI index. The right option is access, usage, and quality. The access has been given the weightage of 35%, usage has been given the weightage of 45, and the quality has been given the weightage of 20%. So the right option for this particular question, which measures to what extent the financial inclusion has been achieved in India, that is the right option is option C. Let's move on to question number 79 now. Which one of the following best describes the key objective of India's Open Network for Digital Commerce ONDC initiative? In case of the e-commerce model, again and again there has been a discussion as well as the criticism regarding the kind of monopoly that we are seeing. Monopoly in the sense there are very few companies today which are present in Indian economy which are controlling the e-commerce model. Gone are the days when we used to have, right, 10 e-commerce companies, 12 e-commerce companies. There has been slow and steady reduction in the number of companies. But the problem has been when very few number of companies which are again privately owned will control the e-commerce model, there will always be a criticism because the focus will be on the profit motive. In order to address this particular problem, the government of India has launched a model which is called as Open Network Digital Commerce. The main objective, or the key objective why the government of India has launched ONDC, it is basically to break the dominance of large e-commerce platforms. So question number 79, right option is option C. Let's move on to question number 80 now. Which one of the following statements about UPI and CBDC is not correct? You'll have to find out the statement which is not correct. Let's start. UPI is a real-time payment system and digital rupee is akin to sovereign paper currency. That is digital rupee, that is CBDC, is it the fiat currency and a legal tender? The statement is correct, by the way. CBDC is basically the digital form of the rupee that is printed and distributed by Reserve Bank of India. So statement 1, it is correct. And UPI, is it a real-time payment system? Of course, yes. UPI is operated by NPCI. The funds can be transferred from one account to another account immediately without any wastage of time, unlike, let's say, the NEFT model that is used. In case of UPI, settlement for end users happens instantly as the money gets immediately debited or credited. But in case of digital rupee, there is no settlement as the wallet balance gets transferred to another wallet. A lot of you might have felt these kind of statements are slightly technical, and I do agree with you. There were certain questions which were very difficult. For example, there was one question on 1926, the Hilton Young Commission. Hilton Young Commission, a lot of you, I'm pretty sure, in fact, all of you would have come across this particular commission when you're talking about Reserve Bank of India. But suddenly UPSC is asking you a difficult question where they're asking or they're connecting the Hilton Young Commission with rupee depreciation value or rupee exchange rate. So I do agree with you. Some of these particular questions were very, very difficult. These are kind of questions which are undoable in nature. And if those who are basically claiming that they have done it correctly, they would have done it because they would have simply guessed it. Anyways, in case of UPI, settlement for the end users happens instantly. This should not be very difficult because on day-to-day basis, we use UPI. And when we make a payment in the UPI, the money is transferred from one account to another account. And this transfer happens immediately. Yes, settlement happens immediately. And in case of digital rupee, there is no settlement. What do you mean by there is no settlement? When you transfer the money using different types of payment systems, it will be transferred from your bank account to an intermediary, that is basically a middleman, and then from there the money will be transferred into somebody else's account. That is the meaning of the term settlement. Whereas in case of digital rupee, you have wallets. CBDC wallets are there. When you scan and make a payment, it is fundamentally a transfer from one wallet to another wallet. It doesn't basically travel from your account to somebody else's, let's say, account or an intermediary and then comes back. It doesn't happen like that. That is a statement. Option B is the correct one. UPI transactions are recorded by the banks and reflected in the bank statements. This should not be again difficult because month on month, or let's say once every week, I'm pretty sure all of you keep on checking what is the bank balance. And in the bank balance, in the passbook, all the UPI transactions, in addition to all the other transactions, are recorded in your bank statement. But in case of digital rupee, no data is captured in the bank statement. This is the keyword. No data is captured in the bank statement. Yes. Reason is very simple. The bank account is separate, UPI wallet is separate. You transfer money from your bank account into UPI wallet. So obviously in the bank account statement, these CBDC wallet transfers are not recorded. Third statement is correct. In both the cases, UPI and digital rupee, the liability lies with the users and their respective banks. This statement is incorrect. Liability in case of, let's say, CBDC lies with the central bank. So first three statements are correct. Fourth one is incorrect. Question number 80, option D is the right one. Question number 82. A bond whose proceeds are used only to finance or refinance, underline the term, only to finance or refinance, a combination of both environmental and social projects. Right? The keyword here is both environmental as well as social projects. Because first option is green bond. Green bond will focus on those kind of projects which are environmentally friendly. Social bonds are there, but here the focus is on social, right? Let's say social projects. But the question is both on environmental as well as social projects. Right option for the question will be option C, so the sustainability bond. Option D, sovereign bond, fundamentally can be any type of a bond, but these are issued by the government. Question number 83. Which of the following statements about M1 exchange's role in micro, small and medium enterprises financing is or are correct? I believe this particular question, I'm pretty sure some of you would have felt this is very difficult, but this is connected to one more system that we have come across again and again in the newspapers, TREDS system. There was a change announced even in the budget as well. But anyways, M1 Exchange is basically operating on the TREDS platform. It's an entity. There is Invoice Mart, there is M1 Exchange. All of them basically operate, right, this kind of a invoice, right, the invoice discounting. M1 Exchange provides collateral based loans to MSMEs. Do they provide loans? They do not provide the loans per se. Essentially, let's say there is a MSME which has sold certain raw material or input or a good to a particular company. Let's assume this is a public sector company. Now, this MSME can sell the invoice or trade receivable. Right? They will use the term trade receivable. They can sell their invoice or a trade receivable to a financier, and the financier will provide the money to the MSME, of course, imposing certain charges. This is called as discounting of invoices. So the TREDS system will provide the facility of discounting of invoices and the bills of exchange for MSME. Statement 2 is correct. Does it provide collateral based loan? This is incorrect. M1 Exchange functions as a credit rating agency for the MSMEs. This is also incorrect. Credit rating is not done. It is not one of the functions of the M1 Exchange. So question number 83, option B is the right one. Question number 84 now. Which one of the following best describes the crowding out effect in the context of fiscal policy? Crowding out. What is the basic idea for crowding out? We discuss the idea of deficit in the budget. And when there is a deficit, focus on the most important deficit in the budget, fiscal deficit. So when you talk about the fiscal deficit, essentially it means government is borrowing. Government is borrowing the money. And when the government is borrowing the money, one of the side effects or one of the repercussions of high fiscal deficit will be the demand for the money in the market will be high. And when the demand for the money increases, the interest rates in the market will also increase. And when the interest rates increase, essentially a lot of private investors, private sector companies, etc., those who want to borrow, they will look at the higher interest rate and they will move away from the borrowings market. They will feel this rate of interest is very high. It's a big burden for them. They do not want to borrow at this high rate of interest. This is called as crowding out. This is called as crowding out of the private sector. And the question is exactly that. The meaning of the term crowding out effect. A situation where private investment increases due to increased government spending. This is incorrect. It is exactly crowding in. Please understand. This statement represents crowding in. That is, a lot of private sector investors will look at higher investment by the government of India. They will use the term their animal spirits will be revived. They feel the economy will perform much better now. They will also start to invest more. That is crowding in. A situation where government borrowing leads to high interest rates, which reduces private investment. The statement B is correct. Let me not go anywhere any further in case of this particular question. So question number 84, right option is option B. Question number 87 now. Which of the following statements about crowdfunding is or are correct? I'm pretty sure a lot of you have come across the term crowdfunding in day-to-day, let's say, current affairs. Basic idea for crowdfunding is rather than going to a lender, individual lender or an institutional lender to get the loans, to borrow from them, which may not be possible because the rate of interest could be higher, which may not be possible because the documentation burden is higher, which may not be possible because the bank doesn't want to take a risk by lending to me, etc. In such cases, rather than borrowing from institutions like this, can I borrow from different investors individually from the market? That particular process is called as crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is solicitation of funds, small amount, from multiple investors through a web-based platform or social networking site for a specific project. A lot of companies, or let's say a lot of startups, basically go for crowdfunding. First statement is correct. Small and medium enterprises are able to raise funds at lower cost of capital without undergoing rigorous procedures. Yes, the second statement is also equally correct. Right option for question number 87 will be option 1, that is both statement 1 and statement 2. Let's go forward now. Question number 88, purely static in, let's say, the information that is provided here. With reference to different committees in India, consider the following details. R.N. Malhotra Committee, L.C. Gupta Committee, Urjit Patel Committee, Y.H. Malegam Committee. Now, out of all these particular committees, I'm pretty sure you would have come across one or two committees. May not be all of them, one or two committees when you're studying, when you're going through the notes, etc. For example, Urjit Patel Committee, very, very famous committee, by the way. Urjit Patel Committee is under the Reserve Bank of India. Yes, that is correct. Third column matches. But the Urjit Patel Committee is not connected with housing sector. It is not connected with housing sector. Urjit Patel Committee has given a recommendation regarding, let's say, introduction of STF, standing deposit facility. It has given a recommendation regarding the introduction of new monetary policy committee system, etc. So third is incorrectly matched. Third is incorrectly matched, I will eliminate the B as well as C option. There is also one more committee, YH Malegam Committee. YH Malegam Committee is connected with microfinancing. Yes, this is true by the way. YH Malegam Committee is connected with microfinancing. Aryan Malhotra Committee. This committee, remember this, the connection to the IRDAI is that because of the recommendation of Aryan Malhotra Committee, the IRDAI was actually established by the government. But the columns basically say that, or the points basically say that the Malhotra Committee led to, right, or basically Malhotra Committee was set up under IRDAI. The first one is also incorrect. Right, so first one is incorrect, fourth one is correct, and second one, LC Gupta Committee, it recommended because historically speaking, in India, the derivative contracts were banned from being traded in the market. Because of the recommendation of LC Gupta Committee, the government of India had to amend Securities Contracts Regulation Act. And after this, in the year 2000, the trading of commodities or trading of derivative contracts was reintroduced or introduced, was promoted in the market. So second and fourth are correct. Right option for the question number 88 will be option D. Question number 89 now. Consider the following statements about non-banking financial companies in India. NBFCs in India. NBFCs cannot accept demand deposits. Generally, there are two types of deposits: the time deposits, demand deposits. The banks are allowed to accept both of them. What about the non-banks? The non-banks are allowed to accept only the time deposit, not the demand deposits. So first statement, incorrect. Right? These are not allowed to accept demand deposits. All the NBFCs operating in India have to be registered with RBI. All. Keyword here is all. Do all the NBFCs register with RBI? Answer is no. Why? Let's say you're a stock broker. You're a mutual fund company, you're an insurance company. These are the different types of entities. These cannot be regulated by Reserve Bank of India. These are NBFCs, but cannot be regulated by Reserve Bank of India. So there are also other regulators in addition to RBI. RBI is the important regulator, main regulator. But apart from this, there are other regulators as well for NBFCs. So second statement is incorrect. NBFCs form part of the payment and settlement systems and can issue checks drawn on itself. This is incorrect. What do I mean by this? Let's say you open an account with an NBFC. Will the NBFC issue a check just like SBI giving you a checkbook when you open an account with SBI? Answer is no. These cannot issue checks which are drawn on itself. Third one, NBFCs are part of the payment system. Incorrect. Right? The question number 89, right? That is also incorrect. Fourth one, just a second. NBFCs form a part of the payment and settlement system and can issue. Incorrect. Deposit insurance facility of Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation is not available to the depositors of deposit taking NBFCs. Is DICGC going to cover? Is DICGC going to cover all of these particular, right? Let's say the deposits which are collected by the NBFC? No. So deposit insurance facility of the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation is not available. Yes, the statement is correct. If the bank is collecting deposits, how much of the deposit is insured? Up to 5 lakh rupees. But please understand, this is applicable only to the entities which are classified as banks. The moment you're classified as a bank, you get a banking license, you will come under the coverage of DICGC. Whereas NBFCs, cooperative societies, credit societies, they will collect the deposits, but they are not covered under DICGC. Fourth statement is correct. Right option for question number 89 will be option C. Question number 90 now. Consider the following statements about multi-dimensional poverty index, MPI. MPI is calculated using Alkire Foster methodology. Yes, that is true by the way. MPI calculated by Niti Aayog has a total of 12 indicators. Yes, that is also true. United Nations is also publishing this. Niti Aayog is also publishing this. But the fundamental difference is United Nations uses 10 indicators, 3 parameters or 3 dimensions, 10 indicators. Whereas Niti Aayog basically publishes with 12 indicators. Maternal health, maternal health and bank accounts are common indicators in the MPI of Niti Aayog and MPI of United Nations Development Program. These two indicators are extra in Niti Aayog index. These are not common in both of them. These are extra in the Niti Aayog. So third statement is incorrect. First and second are correct. Right option will be option A, 1 and 2 only. Question number 64 now. A scheme that has been asked, revamped Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan. How many of the following statements or which of the following statements is or are correct? The period of its implementation is 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2026. This is a straightforward factual based question. Is it 1st April 2021? No, it is 1st April 2022. Right, so first statement is incorrect. The key objective of revamped RGSA is to develop the governance capabilities of the Panchayati Raj institutions to deliver on the SDG. This statement again purely factual, purely factual. Yes, that is true. Third statement, the share of the central funding of the revamped RGSA is 100% for all the states and union territories. Is it completely central government funded? Is it a central government scheme? Answer is incorrect. The general distribution of the funding, general burden of funding this particular scheme is on the center as well as the state. 60 is to 40, of course, yes. If it is a Himalayan state, etc., there are different numbers, but the general distribution of funding between the center as well as the state is 60 is to 40. Third statement is also incorrect. Question number 64, right option is option B. That is a second statement only. So these are the questions which have appeared from the subject of Indian economy. Now I'll hand over the discussion to Mukesh sir.
Hello and welcome to the discussion for questions from geography and environment. Now, this year, you had a different pattern in the subject of geography altogether. Now, I cannot recall a question paper for UPSC Prelims in the recent times where you never had a question from physical geography. While it was expected that Indian geography would dominate, but then it was not expected that physical geography would go completely absent, which was the case this year. In geography, we had roughly around 12 questions. In environment, roughly around 10 questions. Now, we shall be taking a look at each one of the questions one by one, taking a look at what the correct answers were. And what I will do is, I will also help you understand that how you could arrive at the answer logically. Where would you find the source for that understanding as well? Okay, so we will go ahead with the questions, and at the end of it, we would take a call together whether the question for geography and environment were doable. If yes, how many of them, and how many of them were completely factual. Okay, so starting first of all with the first question of geography, and that is question number 4. Now, this was something which was in news headlines. That is the case of the Virinium port. Now, Virinium port has been in news for the past couple of years. Now, it is a deep water port which has been developed across the southwestern coast of India in Kerala. So, in what ways does the Virinium International Seaport represent structural shift in India's maritime and logistics policy? Now, here, by functioning exclusively as domestic cargo hub to reduce reliance on coastal shipping and eliminate the need for foreign collaborations. This is incorrect. Because when we talk about Virinium port, now Virinium port is a transshipment port and a deep water port. It is not for the domestic industry, it is for the international maritime trade. So the first statement is incorrect. Second one, by focusing primarily on passenger cruise tourism and heritage shipping, now this in itself is incorrect. It does not focus only on, so here the term is primarily. Passenger cruise tourism is not something which is linked to Virinium. It is linked to the Kochi port, it is linked to the Mumbai port, it is also linked to the Marmagao or the Panji port. It is not linked to Virinium port. So that automatically leaves only one option. Now, by leveraging its natural deep draft and strategic location to reduce dependence on foreign transshipment ports, enhance revenue retention, and reposition India in the regional maritime trade. Now, this is associated with the case of Virinium port, deep water port, deep draft, right? To reduce the dependence associated with the Colombo and the Changi port in Singapore. Now, then coming to the next question, identify the river of the Indian subcontinent on the basis of the following information. It has an antecedent drainage system. Now, antecedent, it cuts through the mountains because it is in existence prior to the formation of the mountains. It flows through 3 countries. It originates in the Tibetan plateau and is an important river for irrigation. It does not form distributaries. Now, please keep one thing in mind. The fourth statement is a telling one. It does not form distributaries. Any river which will meet the sea directly will end up forming a lot of distributaries. Now, there are 2 rivers which are mentioned which directly meet the sea. That is Brahmaputra and Indus. Now, they will form numerous distributaries before actually meeting the sea in the deltaic stretches. So, both of them can easily be eliminated. Then it flows through 3 countries. Now, if you take a look at River Tista originates from the region of the Zemu Glacier in northern Sikkim and then drains into Bangladesh. That is 2 countries. It is Satluj, which originates from the Rakastal in the Tibetan highlands, and then after that, it basically ends up entering India through Shipkila Pass and then moving into the region of Pakistan. So the correct answer is Satluj. So this question was doable. This question was also doable. So 2 out of 2 were doable, right? Now, which of the following with reference to Indian states is or are not correct? Here, important for you to point out or to figure out not correct or correct is asked. Now, Uttar Pradesh shares its boundary with the highest number of other Indian states. This is a correct statement. From Uttarakhand to Himachal Pradesh, you will observe Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, right? Then after that, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, it does share its border with almost 8 different states. So this statement is correct, right? So wherever one is there, eliminate it because you have to find which is not correct. Rajasthan shares the longest international border amongst the international states. This is incorrect. It is basically what? West Bengal, right? Sikkim is the only Indian state that shares its border boundary with just one another Indian state. Now, this is where you have to take a look at the map, and there is Meghalaya as well. Meghalaya is also the state which shares its border with only Assam. So here, this is also incorrect. So the correct answer in this particular case will be C, that is 2 and 3 only. Now here, basically, you have to mark it as doable again. But there's a probability you could commit mistakes here, but this is a question which is nonetheless very, very doable. Then, which among the following is or are the objective of the Rain-Fed Area Development Initiative under the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture? Now, let's suppose as a candidate, I have not come across this terminology, right? Now, National Mission for Sustainability, Sustainable Agriculture. So, encouraging monoculture in rain-fed areas. Monoculture can never be sustainable, guys. Monoculture always depreciates the soil fertility and eventually leads the soil to be fallow for certain months and can lead to soil erosion. So, monoculture can never be associated with sustainable agriculture. Increasing rice cultivation in irrigated regions. Now, here, first of all, rain-fed area development. Irrigation is not a prime property of rain-fed area development. Secondly, even if let's suppose we are not able to link that, paddy cultivation is always associated with increased soil salinity because of the flood irrigation. So that can never be sustainable method of agriculture or irrigation which can be carried out, right? Enhancing productivity and minimizing climate risk through integrated farming systems. This is correct. The technical nature of the sentence in itself will make you believe that this is the statement which is correct. So here the correct answer is D, that is 3 only. So what do you think? Was it doable or not doable? I would suggest application of logic would make it doable, right? Now, yes, correct. That is what the rain-fed area development means. You are dependent on rainfall, right? Now, then, which of the following is or are the most significant implications of obtaining Oikotex certification for Irisilk in the global textile industry? Irisilk, or what is known as the peace silk, associated with the northeastern part of the country also. Now, that is where here the Oikotex certification. Now, that is the factual portion associated with it. But let's suppose we don't know this, but it is a certification nonetheless. Oikotex certification is provided for chemical free leather goods, chemical free textiles, etc. Right? But nonetheless, let's suppose we were not aware. But still, some certification would be required for global standards. That is why you need certification. So, allows the Indian exporters to compete in high-end markets that prioritize chemical-free products. Right? Correct answer. Now, it confirms that Irisilk meets international safety, environmental, and quality standards, enabling its entry into premium eco-conscious markets. This is also correct, right? So I will keep it under partially doable because it might be possible that under the pressure of the exam hall, under the pressure of the prelims, we might get nervous looking at the Oikotex certification. It can be possible, right? So I will keep it partially doable. But application of logic in the sense could also help you arrive at the correct answer, right? But nonetheless, ships from which of the following countries have to cross the Strait of Hormuz to reach out to the Indian Ocean? Now, Strait of Hormuz and the location of the countries near the Strait of Hormuz is something which was in news and which has been repeated by multiple different faculties on multiple different platforms. We have covered it in the mapping session. We have covered it in the places in news. So we have covered it endlessly as well. So I expect all of you would have done this question correctly. But nonetheless, here, which of the following countries have to cross the Strait of Hormuz to reach out to the Indian Ocean, right? So, Bahrain, yes. Syria, no. Why? Syria is situated at the Mediterranean coastline, right? So, the shipping from Syria, if it has to reach the Indian Ocean, it will cross the region of Suez Canal and Bab el Mandeb, not the region of the Strait of Hormuz, right? Then you have Qatar, right? Now, Qatar, yes, Qatar is situated here. Bahrain is situated here. Egypt, again, no. Okay, so here the correct answer is going to be 1 and 3 only, right? The correct answer is going to be B, 1 and 3. I hope everybody would have been able to get this, right? Now, then this was a factual question, but I will tell you how you can apply logic in this also. But I would still say that this was a question, if we were not sure, safe to leave. What was the question? That you had the question of a volcano, Tungurahua volcano, which was declared as Global Geopark by UNESCO in 2025, is situated in which of the following countries? It is okay to skip this question if we are not sure about it. Okay. Now, but what is the logic here? If we take a look at the options here, volcanic eruptions, for example, when you consider Cotopaxi, all of these, now they are situated primarily in Ecuador. Peru is not known for much of the volcanic eruptions, and that is why you could have marked A. But having said that, here it is not said that whether it is an active volcano, whether it is an extinct volcano, whether it is a dormant volcano. So chances are that a student could get confused, right? So this is a factual question which is partially non-doable, right? Now, with reference to the climate of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which of the following statements is or are correct? No, it is okay to skip that question about the Tungurahua volcano. It's absolutely fine. Don't beat yourself and don't be harsh on yourself that I couldn't get that. Even if you would have covered all the volcanoes, you would not be able to retain it, right? So please be lenient on yourself as well. With reference to the climate of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which of the following statements is or are correct? The climate can be defined as humid, tropical, coastal climate. Very much correct. The island region, humid because the moisture and the rainfall occurs throughout the year. Tropical coastal climate, right? It receives rainfall from both southwest monsoon as well as the northeast monsoon. Because whether you have the southwest monsoon winds or the northeast monsoonal winds, they will pick up moisture from the region of Bay of Bengal and they will dump it over the region of Andaman Nicobar Islands. That is correct. Maximum precipitation is between December and May. But why? When we talk about southwest monsoon, it is after May. When we talk about northeast monsoon, it is prior to December. So this is wrong. So the correct answer in this case is going to be B, 1 and 2 only. Now, if you recall the discussions that we had been having in all the sessions where we discussed about the Great Nicobar project, I hope you recall our discussion where we said that UPSC is not an examination like SSC. UPSC is not an examination like the state PCS, that it will ask you the projects under Great Nicobar. It will ask you about the surrounding regions or the surrounding topics. So this was a question very much expected and not very difficult. So I would put it under very much a doable category. Do let me know whether you feel that it is doable or not. I do hope that you would have found it doable as well, right? Now, again, another simple question. Which of the following geographical features or phenomena is or are associated with the peninsular block of India? Submergence of parts of the western coast due to tectonic activity. Straightforward, right? That when we talk about the case of the western coast of India, you have the faulting. That is why the western ghats, they are not your mountains, they are what are known as escarpments. Because when you had the collision at that point of time, there was a fault created, a normal fault created, and this sunk, right? So that is why the first statement is correct. Presence of residual mountain ranges such as the Velikonda Hills and Mahendragiri Hills. Again, you have very old volcanic regions, very old residual and eroded mountainous region. Correct. Deep V-shaped river valleys formed by fast-flowing rivers. Basic difference between peninsular rivers and Himalayan rivers, isn't it? That you have the broader, shallow valleys created by the peninsular rivers and deeper valleys created by Himalayan rivers, because the Himalayan rivers come down with a great velocity. So the vertical erosion is very high in Himalayan rivers, not so much in peninsular rivers. So this is incorrect. So the correct answer in this case is going to be B, that is 1 and 2 only. Again, very much doable. Any of my class, any of you who have attended the class, any of the sessions, we have discussed it in so much detail about the formation of the peninsular plateau, formation of the Indian subcontinent, the formation of an escarpment. I'm sure you would also put this under the doable category, isn't it? Now, this is a question which is lengthy, but apply logic, right? Now, here, even though in the notes that I provided for the population settlement and transportation, you would have found it, but still, let us apply logic. Let us suppose we don't know this. Consider the following statements with reference to Sagarmala program of the government of India. Sagarmala is what? Port-led development, isn't it? The Sagarmala program seeks to achieve port-led economic growth through cost-effective and sustainable coastal infrastructure. Success of the Sagarmala program is reflected in significant growth in coastal and inland waterway shipping, along with improved global port rankings. Sagarmala 2.0 aims to position India as a global maritime innovation hub aligned with Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat 2047 visions. Right? These are the statements. Statement 2 validates the effectiveness of the strategies Statement 1 envisioned in. What is Statement 2? That success is reflected in significant growth, right? That is the effectiveness of the strategies that is envisioned in the Sagarmala program. Correct statement. Statement 3 extends the objective of Statement 1 by embedding them into the future oriented innovation framework 2047, Viksit Bharat, Amrit Bharat, Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is a future oriented, right? Correct. Statement 1 contradicts Statement 3 by focusing only on traditional infrastructure instead of modern innovation. Can you have any government program for 2047 for developed country, etc.? Can you have any kind of question which will or any kind of scheme or any kind of mission which will talk only about traditional infrastructure? Absolutely not, right? So incorrect. Correct answer is B, 1 and 2 only. I will still put it under doable, but let's suppose due to the length of the question, we might be missing out, but it is very much doable if you read the basics of it. Okay. Now, which of the following statements with reference to Lake Turkana is or are correct? Factual question. Okay to skip this question. It is the largest desert lake in the world. This is correct. The lake is situated in South Sudan along the eastern fringe of the Sahara Desert. Incorrect. It is actually present in the Kenyan territory on the leeward side, and that is why it receives very little rainfall associated with the highland region. Lake is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is also referred to as the Jade Sea. This is also correct. So in this, the correct answer is going to be B, 1 and 3 only. But I would say it is okay to skip the question. Okay? It is okay to skip the question. It's absolutely fine, right? Because this is factual, right? Which of the following statements about rare earth elements and critical minerals is or are correct? Remember, I had told you to look at the video associated with the critical minerals and rare earth elements multiple number of times. Particularly the share of rare earth elements, the number of rare earth elements, we had revised that within the special classes and in the YouTube video as well. Which of the following is correct? Modern technological innovation, including AI, robotics, and space exploration, extensively utilize rare earth elements. It is a very generic statement. No one can say this is incorrect, right? China has the highest share in mining of rare earth elements, followed by India. Now, are we so good in mining the rare earth elements? Do we have such a large share? Absolutely no. China followed by US. The government of India launched the National Critical Mineral Mission in 2025 to establish a robust framework for self-reliance in the critical minerals sector. Very much correct, right? Rare earth elements are a set of 13 metallic elements. Are they the 13 metallic elements? No. They are a group of 17 elements, including the lanthanides, then you have scandium and yttrium, right? So, this is incorrect. Something that we had revised multiple times, so I would firmly put that under the category of D. Okay, doable, right? So, overall, in geography, out of the 12 questions which were asked in geography, I would say that at least 9 of them were doable. I'm leaving out the portion of Lake Turkana. I'm leaving out the portion of the Tungarua volcano. Those were factual. Leave that. But other than that, rest of them were doable. At least now, take a firm decision to stop chasing factual portions in geography and please focus on the conceptual ones. That is what UPSC has been trying to signal to you guys. Okay, and out of 12, if 9 to 10 are solvable, it is a good question. It is an easy to moderate question. Okay, I hope those of you who have attended the sessions were able to do this. Okay. Environment and ecology. Now, in environment and ecology, 10 questions were asked. I would say that this was slightly tougher, factual. So I would not be very harsh on oneself if we are not able to solve this. Now, in environment ecology, starting with the first question, again, terming it into doable, non doable, this was a logical question. India's long term low emission development strategy is a crucial tool for achieving net zero emissions by 2070. Fourth biennial update report submitted in December 2024 recorded around 8% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions. Climate resilient development necessarily depends on quick and short term achievement of emission reduction targets. Okay. Now, which of the following relationships are correct? Statement 1 is empirically supported by statement 2. Now, what is statement 1? Long term low emission development strategy is a crucial tool for net zero emission. That is statement 1. Empirically, that is, do you have any quantity or any kind of proof that we are going towards that direction? Statement 2 provides that empirical evidence. So, first statement is correct. Statement 3 contradicts the approach implicit in statement 1. Now, statement 3 is what? Quick and short term achievement. What is statement 1? Long term low emission development strategy. It is contradictory, isn't it? So, here, second statement is also correct. Statement 1 and statement 3 together establish the premise for long term sustainability. This is not correct, obviously. So, here, incorrect. So the correct answer is going to be B, 1 and 2. I will put it under partially doable. We might have been overwhelmed because in certain sets this was the first question. So it is expected that a candidate is nervous and then you have so many terms thrown at the candidate. It is expected that the candidate might commit mistake in this. So I will put it under the case of partially doable, right? Now, with respect to Western Hullock Gibbons, which of the following statements is or are correct? A sanctuary. Now, why has this question been asked? Because of the EIA clearance which was provided to the Hulongapar Wildlife Sanctuary for oil extraction. Throughout last year, this area has been in news. We have been discussing about the western and the eastern Hullock gibbons endlessly. A sanctuary in northeastern India is home to this ape species, listed listed as endangered in the IUCN Red List. Correct. They have specialized brachiation and can easily swing between trees. That is the ability of these ape species to move between the case of the trees here. This is also correct. In case we were confused or we were very intimidated by the term brachiation, fair enough. Okay to leave it. But that also tells you importance of understanding it in English All those of you who are mixing and matching the language, it is important for you to improve your understanding of the terms as well. They possess a strong and heavy bill like gorillas, yet are remarkably agile tree climbers. Now, they are not at all strongly built like gorillas. They are, in fact, much smaller in terms of the size, in terms of the gait that they have. So the correct answer in this case is B, 1 and 2. Right? This is doable. Okay. Now, then, which of the following best explains the rationale for protecting mangrove ecosystems in the context of climate resilience? Now, few of you have told me that this was tough, but let us analyze this question. Mangroves reduce tidal energy, fair enough, and store fresh water. Where will the mangroves store fresh water? If they are surrounded in the coastal area, do they have any scope to store fresh water? They don't. Making them ideal sites for paddy cultivation? No. Right? So, if they would have stored fresh water, paddy cultivation in saline areas, how would that have happened? Incorrect. Now, mangroves, they have salt secreting glands. Will they have salt sensitive roots? No, they have salt tolerating roots. Okay, so here salt sensitive roots filter seawater. Now, here itself it is incorrect. By withstanding tidal surges and offering biomass resources, mangroves function both as natural bioshields and livelihood bases for rural communities. Absolutely correct. So the correct answer in this case is going to be D, that is 3 only. Now, this is where basically I would put it firmly under doable category, right? Now, again, another statement because Amur falcons was in news. We had covered it multiple times in the Conquer prelims and the species in news. Which of the following statements, but let's suppose we have not covered it and you have not covered it. Still, let us try to solve this question if we had no idea about it. Which of the following statements with regard to arrival of Amur falcons at the Doyang Lake in Nagaland each year from Mongolia is or are correct? It showcases how sustained local conservation efforts can contribute to arrival and protection of the international migratory birds. They are coming from Mongolia to Nagaland, so obviously sustained conservation efforts. It reflects the global success of advanced tracking technologies that guide migratory birds back to their stopover sites. Now, the tracking technology, can it provide guidance to the birds that no, now you move left, now you move right, now you have to move forward, now you have to stop? No. It confirms that Amur falcons have adapted to permanent residency in India due to favorable habitat changes. The question in itself tells you that arrival each year from Mongolia. They are arriving each year. There is a migration. These are migratory birds. These have not established permanent bases in India. So here, basically, the correct answer is going to be A, 1 only. Absolutely doable. Now, with reference to the Madhav National Park, which of the following statements is or are correct? Remember, we discussed the Madhav Tiger Reserve in the special class which was held on Wednesday on the app. We had discussed about the Madhav Tiger Reserve as well. So here, it was declared a tiger reserve in India in 2025, yes. Sakya Sagar, which is designated as a Ramsar site, is situated within this national park. This is also correct. Its area is shared between Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. It lies in the Shivpuri district of Madhya Pradesh itself, right? So this is incorrect. Now, here some of you might have committed mistake because of the case of the Ramsar site, but otherwise very much doable, very much discussed in the sessions. But let's suppose, fair enough, I will put it under slightly factual and partially doable. I'll not put it under absolutely doable. Okay. Now, then after that, consider the following statements about foxtail orchid. Foxtail orchid was in news owing to the Guwahati airport. It is an epiphytic orchid that it grows on the other trees. This is a correct statement. The species is endemic to northeast India. Now, this is a factual statement. Many of you would have got this incorrect, or many of you might not have known this. Okay to leave this question. The species is endemic to Northeast India? No, it is found in Northeast India. It is the state flower of Arunachal Pradesh and Assam, but it is also to be found in the larger region of the subcontinent, in South Asia, and so on. So the second statement is incorrect. So the correct answer in this case is going to be B, 1 and 3 only. It is okay to skip this question. This would be absolutely factual one. Okay, fair enough. This is another of the factual questions. Again, okay to skip this. At the United Nations Ocean Conference held in June 2025 in France, the FAO of the UN demonstrated its leading voice on marine and ocean issues, especially on sustainable fisheries and aquaculture for blue resilient livelihood and transformation. Which of the following combinations about the four betters proposed by FAO for blue transformation is correct? Now, here the correct answer, in fact, is better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. But this is factual. Okay to skip it. Okay, if you know it, fair enough. If you don't know it, then also it's fine. Now, this is again extremely factual question. Which of the following is the first Plan Vivo certified Red Plus project in India? The correct answer is Khasi Hills Community Red Plus project, which was established way back in 2011. Okay, so if you would have marked it under guesswork, fair enough. But under the normal current affairs also, I'm sure many of you would not have come across it. Again, a question to be skipped. Right. In UCAN, we had discussed the case of the Red Plus. We had discussed the case of TFIF. We had discussed about this Khasi Hill Community Project also in the UCAN session. But still, I would side with the candidates here who have appeared for the examination, who found it to be difficult. It's okay to skip this. Okay. But we had discussed this in the UCAN session. If you recall this, we had a longer discussion along with the Tropical Forest Forever facility, along with that, the Red Plus program, and we had an entire list of the outcomes of the Red Plus program as well. But it's okay if you can skip it. Okay. Now, the last question of environment ecology: which of the following statements in relation to Nirantar, a platform of institutions under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, is or are correct? Ecosystem survey and analysis is a vertical under this platform, the lead institute of which is Botanical Survey of India, Kolkata. Research and management of ecosystem service is a vertical under this platform, the lead institute of which is Central Zoo Authority, New Delhi. Now, the first statement is in fact correct. Now, Central Zoo Authority is not associated with the entire Nirantar program. This is again a very factual question, however. It's okay to get confused and leave it. But think about it. Zoo Authority can never have an entire responsibility associated with the larger monitoring system of the environment and resilient ecosystem. Capacity development support is a vertical under this platform, lead institute of which is Indian Institute of Forest Management, that is Bhopal. All right. Green hydrogen we will be discussing in science and tech question. Don't worry. Okay. So here the correct answer is again B. Okay. So overall, this is again a factual question. Out of all the questions of environment, I would say 4 to 5 were doable out of 10. Let's assume we take a conservative estimate, 4 were doable. Okay, let's say in geography, in geography, out of the 12 questions, 9 were doable. I would say 10 also. But let's assume one mistake, I allow you for that. In environment, UCAN sessions, current affairs sessions, Conquer Prelim sessions, which we had taken, you would have, out of the 10 questions, been able to cover 4 to 5. So out of the 22 questions of geography and environment, my argument is that a student who would have been regular in the classes would have been able to attempt around 14 to 15 questions, 13 to 15 questions at least. That means around 26 to 30 marks in this difficult paper where you have difficult subjects like history, right? In those areas, difficult subject like internal security and so on, 26 to 30 marks could be secured easily only from this particular portion. When you take a look at the overall cutoff, you'll get an idea somewhere around 80, 85. These 30 marks can be like gold dust. Okay, so do let me know how did you fare in these particular subjects, in these particular questions, and I hope you would have done maximum portion of it correct. Okay, so that will be all from my side for geography and the portion of environment. Now we will have the discussion for the following subject.
Hello everyone, I'm back again. There is a correction I need to make in question number 89. When I discussed the question, I discussed the points correctly. But while marking, I've made a mistake. Let me correct that. NBFCs cannot accept demand deposit. The statement is correct. Statement is correct. I told you NBFCs are allowed to collect term deposits, but they are not allowed to collect demand deposit. So the statement is correct. First is correct, and the fourth one is correct. Right option for question number 89 is option A. I repeat, right option for question number 89 is option A, not option C. So this is one correction I wanted to make. Now I'll call Chetan sir to continue the discussion.
Hello, everyone. I really hope all of you have given a good attempt this year. So, now we will discuss the questions from international relations and internal security. UPSC, as you know, has been an unpredictable public service commission. Many students have found the paper to be quite difficult, but trust me, if you had prepared well and if you had used the right strategies, the paper is still solvable. You're able to at least ensure to get that cutoff that's required to clear the prelims exam. Now, when you look at IR and security, the weightage has increased quite significantly. Traditionally, from international relations, we would get around 10 to 11 questions. So, roughly from IR, the same ratio has been maintained with 12 IR questions being asked. And what is really interesting is that from security, the number of questions have increased. In recent years, though security is a main subject, UPSC used to ask around 3 questions. But this time, around 6 security questions have been asked. So now I'll be discussing these 18 questions with the answers and a brief and quick explanation. But before we start, please note we have a very important announcement. Those of you who are looking to enroll with us for your IAS preparation, this is the perfect opportunity because Unacademy is offering the lowest price ever at just 16,999. You will be able to access our subscription along with up to 12 months of free extension. This will give you access to all the live and recorded lectures, the test series, the study material, and the mentorship sessions as well. Those of you who are interested, please check out the link provided in the description box below. But remember, on the subscription page, you will find a different price. To avail the discount, you have to enter the code IAS English. And this is the right time to join because we are launching our new batch in a few days, the Elevate batch, where Abhishek sir would be starting with modern history in the morning and Mukesh sir would be starting with geography in the afternoon. So do check out the details by clicking on the link in the description. Now let's start with the first question from internal security and international relations. Question number 50 on Mission Sudarshan Chakra, a much expected topic mainly because of Operation Sindoor. And following that, Prime Minister Modi last year during the Independence Day celebrations announced a massive air defense initiative called Mission Sudarshan Chakra. So, 3 statements were given. It aims to enhance India's air defense, ballistic missile defense, and aerial offensive capabilities. This mission is being designed to enhance rapid, precise, and powerful defense responses, reinforcing India's strategic autonomy. One of the aims of this mission is to cover all public places of India by an expanded nationwide security shield by 2035. Now, see, officially from the side of the government, we haven't received much details regarding the exact specifications of Mission Sudarshan Chakra. But based on the Prime Minister's announcement and one press release from PIB and some media reports, this question has been framed. Now, traditionally, when you think of air defense, you would think that it only protects Indian airspace against incoming aerial projectiles of the enemy. But however, there have been clear reports from the government that Mission Sudarshan Chakra would also include offensive capabilities as well. It would unify not just the integrated air defense command and the UAV counter command of the Air Force and the Army, but it would also include offensive capabilities. So, along with air defense systems like S-400, Barak, Akash, there would be an integration with other fighter jets, the Nirbhay missile, which gives offensive capabilities. So, to retaliate against the enemy's aerial strikes and to strike back. So, statement one is definitely correct. Statement two, obviously, it enhances our rapid, precise response, reinforcing our strategic autonomy during a conflict situation. And as the Prime Minister announced, the ambition is to expand the coverage across the nation, covering not just critical government facilities and critical infrastructure, but also public spaces across major cities, giving a all India coverage by 2035. So all 3 statements are correct. Option A, 1, 2, 3 becomes the right answer. Clear? Now, let's look at next question. Question 51 from international relations. This time, we had some interesting questions on India's projects in our neighboring countries. This is one such question where the focus is on the river bridges built in our neighborhood with India's funding and India's support. 3 statements were given. Maitri Setu, built over Feni River connecting Ramgarh in India with Sabroom in Bangladesh. Now, let me show you the map. That's when you'll better understand this topic. See, Maitri Setu is something we have discussed even in our classes, in our Conquer Prelim sessions. This project is indeed built over the Feni River, connecting India and Bangladesh. But however, it connects Sabroom, which is in India, in Tripura. It's a border town, a very important border town for even cross-border trade, located on the Indian side in Tripura. Ramgarh, in the Chittagong region of Bangladesh, is linked with it. So now when you come back to the statement, you will realize what UPSC has done. It has again resorted to wordplay. It has basically interchanged the both. It should have been Sabroom in India, Ramgarh in Bangladesh. So one becomes incorrect. Let's look at the second option. Juligat Suspension Bridge connects India with Myanmar. This topic would have been slightly difficult to answer for many of you because it was not recently in news. It's a slightly old project. It was in the news back in 2017 period, in the 2017-2020 period. So this is a minor suspension bridge which India had helped construct, linking Nepal with India in the Pithoradgarh district. And it's built over the Kali River. The reason why this bridge has been picked is mainly because of the Kalapani issue, which has been flaring up every now and then. So this suspension bridge in the Pithoradgarh district of Uttarakhand, in the disputed Kalapani area, connects India with Nepal. So the second one is also incorrect. Obviously, what remains is option D, 3 only. The Mechi Bridge and its approaches connecting Panitanki bypass in India with Kakarvita in Nepal. This is absolutely correct. See, this is a direct statement lifted from the website of National Highways and Infrastructure Development Corporation Limited. This bridge linking India Nepal connects Karkarvita with Panitanki, and it's funded by the Asian Development Bank. It's actually ADB, right? It's a typo that they've made. So this project was also in the news over the last few years. Now, generally, one would assume that for this exam, questions would come mainly from the current affairs of last 12 to 18 months. But this time, you see a different pattern where topics which were in news in 2016, 2017, even 2011, such old topics have been picked by UPSC. Maybe that's where you will find it a little challenging. But let's say if you are able to apply some common sense and smartly eliminate some of the options, even then you would be able to try and answer some of these questions. Let's look at the next question, question 53, on security agencies of India and law enforcement agencies of India. So this is a topic under internal security. So organizations have been given, matched with functions and ministry. You have to check which of them are correctly matched. If you remember, last year, an exact question was given on Enforcement Directorate, DRI, etc. A very, very similar question, the same format as well. So here, the Central Economic Intelligence Bureau, it is incorrectly matched. Its main function is to monitor any suspicious economic activity. It's not just a coordinating agency between law enforcement agencies. It's an economic intelligence agency monitoring suspicious financial transactions. And it's not under Ministry of Home Affairs, obviously. It's under Ministry of Finance. The second one, the SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office. It investigates corporate frauds, correct, but not under Finance Ministry. It's under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So both are incorrect. And third, obviously, CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation, and its motto is to preserve values in public life because this is the country's premier anti-corruption agency, which tackles corruption within central government and central PSUs. And it also protects the health of the national economy as it can investigate economic scandals. And it is placed under Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions. And thus, it gives direct access to the Prime Minister's office. So CBI is the correct answer here. So how many of the above rows given are correctly matched? That is the question. Be very careful here, right? How many of these rows are correctly matched? Only one row is correctly matched. The correct answer, 53, is option A. I hope most of you got this right. This was a fairly easy question. Next, question number 54. Now, this is what I wanted to discuss in slight detail. UPSC has most likely made a blunder again. The question, though it has been designed pretty well, there is a problem with the options. The correct option has not been given by UPSC, right? Let's examine this and let's verify this. Which of the following international conventions have not been ratified by India? Employment Policy Convention, Abolition of Forced Labor Convention, International Convention on Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of their Families, Geneva Convention relative to the protection of civilian persons in time of war, Convention on Reduction of Statelessness. I know these conventions are not very common. You don't read about them in newspapers regularly, right? And neither were some of them were regularly in the news. Now, how do you answer this? See, please remember, generally, when it comes to the topic of refugees and migration, which has been in the news, India generally doesn't participate in such treaties and conventions. For example, we are not part of the Refugee Convention, right? We have not taken any binding commitments under any of the treaties or conventions dealing with refugees and migrants. Based on this, what you can do, you can rule out 5. Convention on Reduction of Statelessness, correct? Then you can even try to rule out 3. International Convention on Protection of Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of their Families. Generally, we do not become part of these kind of conventions. That's one kind of calculated guesswork that you can try to do. Now, why were the first two asked? The first two were asked because of the new labor codes which have taken effect. So under ILO, there are these basic conventions, 8 core conventions of ILO, and India has ratified 6 out of them. And this includes the Forced Labor Convention of 1957. Then, according to the UN organizations and even India's permanent representative to the UN, on the website, it is very clearly mentioned India has ratified the Employment Policy Convention of ILO as well, that deals with employee welfare and guaranteeing employment rights. So 1 and 2 have been ratified. Then coming to the fourth one, this is pretty easy. It's related to Geneva Conventions that places ethical, moral, legal constraints during wartime. And under Geneva Conventions, there are 4 conventions that make up your Geneva Conventions. In the context of Gaza war and Ukraine war, these Geneva Conventions have been in the news. And of course, India has a strong commitment with regard to protection of human rights and ethical behavior during wartime. Based on this assumption, even if you don't know about the topic, you can assume that India would have ratified this. So under Geneva Convention 1, 2, and 3, there are specific restrictions on warfare. It guarantees protection for POWs. It guarantees protection for those who are injured and those who are non-combatants. For example, seafarers who are in a shipwreck during war, they can't be targeted. In land-based warfare, you can't target innocent civilians, sick or wounded soldiers who have already become non-combatants. Then Convention 4, it offers international protection for all civilians during times of war. Under any circumstances, civilians cannot be targeted. So it's asked in the context of Israel being accused of targeting civilian population, right? And clearly 1, 2, 4 should have been the answer. Now see the options. There is no 1, 2, and 4. So UPSC has gone wrong again, right? So let's see if they will remove this question altogether or how they will try to resolve this. So this clearly is a big mistake on the part of UPSC. So what do you think about this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Next, question 55, AI Impact Summit. Much expected topic. We had repeatedly covered this in our Conquer Prelims and in our classes as well, in our Plus and Platinum classes. And don't forget, this is a repeat topic. Even last year, there was a question on AI Summit, on the AI Paris Summit. Now, since India hosted the AI Impact Summit, a direct question has been asked. But see, I have one problem with UPSC here. They did this last time as well, where they expect you to know the theme or the sutras or pillars of these summits, and they engage in these word plays or tricks. They simply change some of the words, and they ask you to by heart and remember all of that. Now, these are the kind of questions where you can take a chance, provided if you had read this in the newspapers. If you don't know, these are the kind of questions you may have to skip because it's very, very factual. There is a slight word play. If you don't catch that, you might go wrong. Now, the AI Impact Summit did have 3 foundational sutras: people, planet, and progress. What UPSC has done? Replaced planet with planning. Generally, this should not be the UPSC standard, right? But what to do? That's why I said, if you are reading current affairs thoroughly, newspapers, attending current affairs sessions, you'll be able to catch it. But let's say you're not aware, don't take a chance in these questions. Now, don't assume the paper is too difficult because of these kind of questions. Now, out of the 18 questions we are discussing under security and international relations, even if you can answer 9 or 10 with good accuracy and leave the rest, you would still be able to do well. If you do the same strategy across subjects, you would still be able to clear. Because see, the cutoff is most likely to be in the range of 80 to 83, not more than that. So even if you can get the easier questions where there is more clarity, more easier way to eliminate the options, that is more than sufficient. Let them give 20, 30 or 35 difficult questions. Leave them. You don't have to really answer them and take a chance, right? So statement one was tricky because they have replaced one of the sutras, which was supposed to be planet. They have replaced it with planning. Imagine how many students, especially who are under a little bit of panic, under a little bit of stress, they may not read everything. Though they know the topic, they would have assumed it's correct and marked this as the answer, right? That's where you have to be a little careful. Next, second statement. See, even if you don't know this, you can solve this with basic common sense and logic. This statement says preamble of summit stresses democratizing AI resources. This is correct. But however, the framework it says is binding. Now, please understand, with regard to any such summits, conferences, we never take any binding commitments. No countries would agree for any binding declaration, right? If you are even aware of any basic concepts of international relations, you would know that in such summits and conferences, no country would take up any kind of binding commitments on them. So, based on that, you can rule out the statement. The New Delhi Declaration, which was brought out, it does focus on democratizing AI resources, but it is not binding, it's voluntary. So, rule out number two. So, elimination method will actually work very well over here, right? With the elimination strategy, you can already get the answer. That's why you have to sometimes look at the options as well. That's another trick that you should employ. The third one is absolutely right. It did have 7 chakras or 7 pillars, which focused on trusted AI, AI for science, inclusive, accessible AI for social empowerment, human capital, economic development and social good, democratizing AI resources, resilience, innovation, and efficiency. These were the 7 chakras or pillars. So only three is correct. D would be the right answer. Next, which of the following connectivity projects is or are part of cooperation between India and ASEAN member countries? This was one of the easiest questions in the paper, right? If you're covering the basic details of India-ASEAN relations, you would definitely be able to answer this. Now look at the map here. The Kaladan Multimodal Transit Transport Corridor linking India with Myanmar. This is a key part of our Act East policy and we engage with ASEAN countries. Then the IMT Highway Project connecting India, Myanmar and Thailand from Moreh to Mandalay, Naypyidaw to Mesot in Thailand. These are two critical legs of our connectivity with Southeast Asia region under the Act East policy, where we are working with ASEAN countries. But the Agartala-Akura rail link, it's with Bangladesh. It's a cross-border rail link connecting Tripura with Akura in Bangladesh. So this is what you have to eliminate. 1 and 2 are right. The correct answer here would be option A, 1 and 2 only. This is something we have covered repeatedly in our plus and platinum classes. Next, match the following type of questions. Lot of match the following type of questions were given where you need to see, look at the pairs and try to arrange it in a correct order. Look at this one. Project supported by India on one side with countries where these projects have come up. On the face of it, it looks like a difficult question, but trust me, it's not. If you're really strong in India's neighborhood relations, you would know for sure that Mangdechu hydroelectric power project is in Bhutan. See, in India-Bhutan relations, I've always stressed in my classes, the key element of our partnership is hydropower cooperation. India has invested heavily in hydroelectric projects, and the Mangdechu project is a flagship project. The energy generated here, the electricity, is in surplus. It actually satisfies Bhutan's demands, and the surplus is transferred to India's grid. So Bhutan is earning revenue from exporting electricity through this project to India. So this is something you can easily match A with 3. But there are two options present here. So you can eliminate A and D. Now look at the second one, the store palace. Right? Again, this requires a little bit of common sense, even if you're not aware of the topic. The very term store palace, it is actually a Pashto word, right? Linked with Afghanistan, of course. It's an old topic. Back in 2016, India had funded and inaugurated the renovated store palace under the then Ashraf Ghani government. So this is Afghanistan. So B with 2. So if you can crack this, you will get your answer. Or another trick, Decoya. Recently, the district hospital was inaugurated, which was built with Indian support. This was mainly meant to serve the Indian Tamil community in Sri Lanka, right? So that's another trick way of trying to get it right. The fourth one is, of course, in Maldives, the Security and Law Enforcement Studies Institute in Maldives, built with Indian support and Indian assistance. So the right answer is 3241. Clear? The right answer is option B. So you can see the supporting arguments which we had used in the classes as well. Next, question 58 from Security and Defense based on weapon platforms. Now, this is a type of question which is repeating. There have been a series of questions in previous years as well on important weapon platforms. Which of the following items are defense hardware is or are manufactured in India? See, all three equipment mentioned here, they are of Russian origin, right? Now, the question is, are we manufacturing them domestically in India? The Sukhoi 30 fighter jets, definitely yes. India has entered into a licensing agreement, and HAL's Nashik division domestically produces the Sukhoi 30s. Then the T-90 Bhishma battle tanks. Even this is licensed to India, and the heavy vehicles factory at Awadhi in Tamil Nadu, it domestically produces the T-90 Bhishma. The third one, Akula class submarine. This is not domestically produced. We have only leased the Akula class submarines under the INS Chakra series. And this was in the news. Previously, we had procured INS Chakra 1 back in late 1990s. Recently, in 2012, INS Chakra 2 had been procured. And it's essentially a nuclear powered submarine to train our nuclear submariners to prepare for the induction of the Arihant class of submarines. Now, recently, we have signed a contract for INS Chakra 3, which is yet to be delivered by Russia. That's why this topic has been picked. So 1 and 2, option A becomes the correct answer. Next, question number 59. Consider the following statements about platforms for multilateral cooperation. This is about multilateralism. The Colombo process is a regional consultative process in which member states take binding decisions by consensus. And the related Abu Dhabi dialogue also has been asked, stating it's a voluntary, non-binding consultative process among Asian countries of labor origin and destination to facilitate regional cooperation on contractual labor mobility. The Global Forum for Migration and Development, created upon the proposal of a former UN Secretary General, is a voluntary forum whose decisions are non-binding in nature. Now, this is where many students would have found questions to be difficult, because look at the length of the question. You would easily require more than a minute just to read the question, right? Generally, let's say you don't know the facts here. This is very factual, right? There's no concept that you can apply here. If you're not in touch with current affairs, if you're not covered the topic at all, it's better you skip these kind of questions. Skip it to the end. Now, the Colombo process is indeed related to the problem of migration, especially the challenges migrant workers face in the host countries. So it includes several Asian countries, up to around 12 Asian countries. But however, the decisions here, though they are taken by consensus, it is not binding. Again, that's the trick, right? If you want to eliminate intelligently, that's the guesswork you can do here. Usually in these kind of diplomatic issues, we don't take any binding commitments. The Colombo process, initiated back in 2003, is mainly designed to bring the countries which are contributing migrant workers, especially to Gulf countries, the GCC countries. So India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and many other Asian countries are part of it. Now, Colombo process, you know why it was in the news? From 2024 to 2026, India was holding the chair of the Colombo process for the first time. That's why it has been picked. So one is incorrect because it's not binding. Everything else was right about the statement, but it's not binding. Next, Abu Dhabi dialogue. Yes, it includes some of the Asian countries of the Colombo process itself, and it basically facilitates labor mobility and the related issues of migrant workers. And yes, it is voluntary and non-binding. So 2 is correct. Then 3 is also correct. The Global Forum for Migration and Development, which is set up through UN General Assembly, was based on the proposal of then UN Secretary General, established back in 2007. And it's also voluntary in nature, non-binding decisions are taken. So 2 and 3, that would be the right answer over here, right? So you can look at the detailed explanation over here. So 2 and 3 is correct. The only thing is Colombo process, it's not binding in nature. Though decisions are taken by consensus, it is non-binding. The other 2 statements are absolutely right. Next, question number 60 on UN organizations. So 4 organizations have been listed. UPSC is asking you which of these organizations have been awarded Nobel Prize twice. Again, a trivia kind of question. Initially, you might think it's a good question on UN organizations, but here it is asking you to identify which of them have won Nobel Prize twice. But again, these are questions which you can skip if you don't know, because it's highly factual. You can't make a guesswork here, right? But if you're aware, let's say while reading about UN organizations, you had covered it. For example, I had taken a marathon on international organizations under the UN. So there we had clearly mentioned ILO, High Commissioner for Refugees, World Food Program winning the Nobel Prize, right? So based on such factual understanding, you can answer this, or else it's better you skip them. Now, World Food Program has won Nobel Prize, but only once, in 2020. UN Children's Fund, it has also won Nobel Peace Prize, but only once in 1965. ILO, which looks after labor welfare, brings out key labor conventions, has won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1969, but only once. It is only the UN High Commissioner for Refugees which has won it twice, in 1954 and 1981. So A becomes the correct answer. Next, another match the following type of question, and honestly, a very, very factual question, very, very difficult for any student to cover this particular topic. Though the topic is interesting and something we cover in our classes, it's related to UN peacekeeping forces. But the problem is, UPSC has listed the abbreviations of these peacekeeping missions and asking you to match the time period of the operation. Now, why is it even relevant for the exams? See, Indian troops were obviously part of these peacekeeping missions. India is one of the largest troop contributing countries in the world, and Indian contingents were part of these UN peacekeeping operations. Now, when you look at UN MIL, the UN mission in Liberia, it operated from 2003 to 18 period. Next, the UN mission in Central African Republic and Chad during the civil war in Chad and the civil uh, the civil conflict that took place here. It was deployed between 2007 and 10. Then the UN stabilization mission in Haiti in the Caribbean, which was affected very badly by criminal violence and disasters. This mission operated from 2004 to 17. And finally, the UN mission in East Timor from 2002 to 2005. So 3142 is the correct combination, and B becomes the correct answer. Next, another match the following type of question. Again, very, very factual. All the BIMSTEC centers have been listed. You have to basically pair them with the locations where they are headquartered. So what you can do is, one trick here is BIMSTEC Energy Center, Bengaluru, which was in the news. Because recently BIMSTEC leaders at the ministerial level and at the secretary level had participated in an energy conference in Bengaluru on the BIMSTEC energy, at the BIMSTEC Energy Center. Then you can even remember the other important BIMSTEC center, the Cultural Industries Observatory, which is being set up in Noida in UP. Right? Now, what you should do here is essentially to basically remember these facts as it is, right? The Sorry, just make a small correction here. The Cultural Industry Center in Thimpu with the Energy Center in Bengaluru. If that combination can work out for you, maybe you'll be able to answer that, right? Or else it's pure memory-based, fact-based question, right? The Weather Climate Center facilitated by our IMD, India Meteorological Department, set up in Noida, and the Technology Transfer Center in Colombo. Now, another way of thinking about this is to think of the 7 pillars of BIMSTEC. Each country, the 7 members of BIMSTEC, they provide leadership to each of the pillars. Like India heads energy security, disaster management, and counter-terrorism. So based on that, also you can try to think that energy center would be located in India, right? Then culture is something which is primarily headed by Bhutan. And based on that assumption, maybe you can try to make an intelligent guess. Then science and technology cooperation is under the leadership of Sri Lanka. So you can base that assumption that technology center could be in Colombo, right? That's one guesswork you can try to do, intelligent guesswork based on 7 pillars and which countries head the 7 pillars. Or else, if you're not aware of the facts, it's better to skip these kind of questions. So the correct order here is 4213. 4213 would be option C. Next, another match the following. Basically, you have to check which of them are not correctly matched. But this question, trust me, is not at all UPSC standard question. UPSC has done this before as well. It had asked a question on armed forces, the ranks and hierarchies in Army, Navy, and Air Force, asking you to check whether they are correctly matched or not. Now, look at this. Indian Army Corps headquarters have been given, and you have to see which one is correct or not. This is a SSE, CDS kind of question, or a banking competitive exam kind of question, not a UPSC standard question at all. Right? This is where students find it to be a little disappointing. But as I said, you still have easy ways to clear this paper because you don't really have to attempt these kind of questions. Right? Now, 3 core in Dimapur, correct? 4 core in Tezpur in Assam, 14 core in Ladakh in Leh. The 33 core, that's the one which is incorrectly matched. It's not Srinagar, it's near Siliguri in Sukna. It was in news in the context of the security threats emerging from Bangladesh under the Muhammad Yunus government, where the 33 Corps of Indian Army was gearing up for any kind of security challenges. And it was frequently mentioned in the news as it is strategically located near Siliguri. So if you're aware of this in current affairs, maybe you can take a chance, or else these are the kind of questions which ideally have to be dropped. Next, very easy, very simple question. Which countries are members of European Union? Right? Belarus, you can obviously rule out. It's a close ally of Russia. So why would it be included in European Union? And another trick, Switzerland. It's not just a politically, strategically neutral country. It is also part of EFTA, the European Free Trade Association, with which India has recently signed a free trade agreement. That's the context. Plus the India EU FTA, right? So Switzerland is a member of EFTA. So obviously it can't be a member of European Union. So based on that logic, you can eliminate both of them. 1 and 4, you can rule it out. Poland and Germany, 2 and 3. That becomes the correct answer. Next, a very anticipated question, Interpol and its color coded notices. This was in the news for many, many years. In the last 4 or 5 years, we have been discussing this topic in our classes, in our Concur Prelims. Now look at the color coded notices. Silver notice is mainly used to identify and trace criminal assets abroad to help tackle proceeds of money laundering and organized crime. Then blue notice is mainly to collect additional information about a wanted individual, their location, to track their activities. Black notice to seek any information about unidentified bodies, where the other countries will have to share adequate information to help identify these unidentified bodies. Then green notice to provide warning about a person's involvement in criminal activities. So 4213. So if you can remember these color coded notices like RCN and the other color coded notices, you can easily answer this question. So though it is factual, right, you can't really blame UPSC for it. It's actually a good question. It is currently in the news as well. We have been issuing these kind of notices through CBI, which is the liaison agency to work with Interpol. And through Interpol, we are getting these color-coded notices issued to tackle crime and offenders who are absconding abroad. So the right pair, the right combination is 4213. Clear? C would be the right answer. Next, a question on India-Germany relations. Recently, German Chancellor paid a very important visit to India. Key agreements were signed. So based on that, a direct question has been asked. Slightly factual, but in the news, I'm sure you must have been able to answer this one. Signing of memorandum of understanding between All India Institute of Ayurveda and University of Hamburg. This is wrong. Why? Again, UPSC is slightly playing around. It's not the University of Hamburg. We did sign an agreement on Ayurveda with All India Institute of Ayurveda, but with the Charite University in Germany. This I've taken directly from the MEA website. We had discussed this in our UCAN classes as well, right? So this is where it goes wrong. The second one, the MOU on hockey, the sports cooperation between India and Germany. And then a bilateral dialogue mechanism on Indo-Pacific. So 2 and 3, these two are correct. And the honorary consul of Germany in Lucknow, this is incorrect. It's actually in Ahmedabad. So rule out 1 and 4, 2 and 3. A becomes the right answer. Next, question 70 on the new bomb disposal standards brought out by Bureau of Indian Standards, which was in current affairs news. It is based on IS 19445 of 2025, and it does improve interoperability of the bulletproof equipment and bullet detection technologies across security agencies. But however, it's an indigenous technology. There is no Russian involvement. Developed by DRDO in association with TBRL. So rule out 3, 1 and 2 are correct. C becomes the right answer. Next, a question on Montreal Convention. This is in the context of the recent air crash that occurred in Gujarat. right? Aviation hull insurance covers physical aircraft, including body, engine, onboard equipment. This is absolutely right. The aviation hull insurance mandated under Montreal Convention covers the fuselage, the cockpit, and all the control systems. And one is right. The second one, Montreal Convention adopted in 1999 by over 130 countries, including India. Airlines are strictly liable to pay compensation to the family nominee of every deceased passenger without requiring the family to prove the fault. So this was done in the case of the recent crash in Gujarat. That's why Montreal Convention was in the news. 1 and 2, option C, becomes the correct answer. Now coming to the miscellaneous section, there were few questions over here. One related to tennis, related to Grand Slam tennis tournaments. The tournaments have a shared governance structure establishing partnership amongst the 4 Grand Slam tournaments. See, the 4 Grand Slam events are Australia Open, Wimbledon, the French Open, and the US Open. And they do have a shared governance structure. One is right. Second one, they are open for all uh, internationally ranked tennis players above the age of 14. Now, a part of the statement is correct. Anybody above the age of 14, right? They are eligible. But however, your ATP rank matters. It is restricted and limited to the top 500 rankers. So 2 is actually incorrect. The ranking actually matters, right? It's not just for all internationally ranked players. It is those within ATP 500 ranking. Then there is a limitation on the number of wild cards a player may receive. This again, it goes completely wrong. There is no such limitation actually. There is no limitation with regard to wild cards. So C, 1 only, becomes the correct answer. There was a question on semiconductor units matched with states where they are coming up or located. You have to see which is incorrectly matched. This is a simple, easy question. Recently, Prime Minister Modi laid the groundwork for the HCL Foxconn unit, which is coming up in Noida, near Jewar, along the Yamuna Industrial Corridor in Uttar Pradesh. So it's not Madhya Pradesh, it should have been UP. C is the correct answer here. Coming to the last miscellaneous question, again a movie-based question, right? Generally, you wouldn't expect this, but in the recent years, UPSC has been doing it. So with regard to the movie Boom, the film has recently won the BAFTA in the children's and family film category. I'm sure you must have heard about this. This is a Manipuri film which made a big global impact. So yes, this is correct. It's a children and family film under the category in the BAFTA awards. It has become one of the first films from India to win this award in the category. Directed by Lakshmi Priya Devi and the first Indian film, as I said, in this category. So all three are right. A, 1, 2, and 3. All three are correct. So with this, I conclude the discussion. Now, Abhishek sir would follow with the history questions.
Welcome back. So, when it comes to history, I think I've already expressed my opinion with regards to how history was. And after analyzing the paper more closely, there are certain things which can be done, there are certain things which cannot be done. I fully agree with you, Pavan. I agree with everyone that history, the number of questions are 20, but they are difficult. Now, there are two things which are at play here. First is that obviously you can't leave history because 20 questions is quite a lot. But at the same point of time, not every question of history was going to be answered by all the students. It is above net and JRF in that regard. There was no logic to certain questions. And very simply, I'll tell you, if you've been able to do 10 questions out of these 20 and getting that 20 marks, using logic and basic understanding, you will be able to do it easily. After that, the whole mantra was don't take a negative. A lot of you may have referred to the courseware also. Out of these 10 questions, all 10 can be done from the courseware. The idea was very simple. Use your logic, because there's a new type of question which has also come through. But the idea is very simple. Don't attempt questions which you can't answer. A lot of my students have told me they've not done that. But getting 8 to 10 questions out of history was the target here. But history is going to be the defining factor for the examination this time, because it was extremely difficult. No doubt whatsoever. If 2023 was bad, this is really, really bad. But saving grace was there were certain questions that I'll show you, Charadev Maidam, or certain logical questions which was there. So be it conquer prelims, be it conquer prelims current affairs, or be it the class notes, be it the coursework in history, you refer to any of it, you'll get 8 to 10 for sure. Because we did cover, for example, Jainism. I did all Jainism summary, and that question can be answered out of that. Okay, let's look at the first question. For example, question number 17, odd one out, easy that was, which is with regards to the Charadev Maidams built by the Thai Ahom Kingdom and got UNESCO World Heritage Tag. Though it is not the latest, because Maratha military landscape is the latest, there was a simple straightforward question which you can find in the courseware also directly, which is, they acted as army fortresses? No. They were recreational centers for royals? No. We know that Maidans are basically burial sites. Battle drills? No. Burial grounds for royals and nobles. So this is a easy question. I'll give you the list of questions which you should have got correct also. Easy question, simple answer, 3 only. Nothing out of the box. Current affairs, art and culture question, nothing difficult. Then, this is called an unnecessary question. Simply avoid a negative here, because there is no logic to this, and over and above that, you can't chase it also. You cannot be now understanding the answer here is D, because there are two, you can say, ragas in Hindustani and Carnatic, which are basically based on modern melodies, and that is where this one is the answer. But as I said, if you are preparing for next year and you are going to learn the ragas now, makes no sense. This is a one-off question. If you skipped it, very good power. This is a skip question. There are at least 5 to 6 questions we should skip, straightforward. But this question does not define how UPSC is asking questions. I'll tell you which question does. Now, for example, this question. This question is of history and economics both, but this only needs logic. Only needs logic, because if you understand the underlying nature of the British in India, you'll be able to get the answer. It talks about artificially fixed rupee sterling exchange rate under Hilton Young Commission. There are 2 commissions, one in 38-39 under Lilithgow, and in 1926 also. They have specified 1926 one was adopted by the British government, for which one of the following reasons. Now read the options and you will automatically realize why the answer is obvious. See, providing support to Indian importers. Can't be possible. Encouraging export of cotton produced from India. Again, make no sense whatsoever. Thereafter, preventing depreciation of rupee in terms of gold. See, at the end of the day, it was about them remitting money to England and having value for that. And therefore, it was to aid the unilateral transfer, the drain from India towards Europe. So the answer becomes A. Because these 3 basically have positive impact on the economy. But A is to sustain the drain and have value for that drain. So this question, I know in the exam context will not hit you. I'm not saying that if you've skipped this question, very good. But if you have used this logic, then you are in the right space and right, you can say, bent of mind in that regard. Then, now this question is easy. If you found this question difficult, then there's a problem in your preparation. Why? Because this is the new pattern question and this needs understanding. This is where UPSC has said, we want rote learning previously. We now want understanding based understanding, which you can find in the courseware directly out of the numismatics chapter. So, Pali texts contain the first definite reference to coins. For example, Kahapana, Nikha, Kamsa, or Karnika. The literary evidence from Pali text is corroborated by archaeological evidence of Panchmat coins from various sites which are basely made out of silver. Yes. Now, these two statements, they say, are correct. The above statements have been associated with which of the following? Simple. Is it about emergence of urban life in Mahajanpada period? As it is there. And transition to money economy? Perfectly correct. C is the answer. So question number 23, second urbanization. Pavan, very good. Simple, straightforward question. Nothing out of the box. But if you look at this question and feel, sir, how will I cover it? This needs conceptual clarity. That is why we are here. That is why I am here. If you understand and see, ancient art and culture, modern cannot be ignored now. Medieval, they are not giving questions, but you never know with UPSC. So nothing out of the box here. Now, this is a little bit of a problematic question. We have to see what the UPSC key tells us. Which of the following temples have a Nagara style shikhara? Right? Now, this list is not a standard list other than these two temples. Meaning Dasavatar temple and Virupaksha temple, everybody knows. Now, Badami, Padakal automatically get eliminated because they are proper Vesara style. And obviously the answer has to be 3 based because Deoghar is Nagara style and therefore it has to be in the answer. So 2 get eliminated automatically. But now there's a problem. See, if you Google this temple, which you don't have an opportunity to do in the examination, even in Nitin Singhania, there's no mention to this temple and there is no specific understanding. If I go by the understanding that it is Ayol, this means that it is Chalukya. Now, I know that Chalukya is Vesara style. Now, when I know that Chalukya is Vesara style, then it should get eliminated because Vesara style is not Nagara style per se. But what is happening is, if there is one interpretation that the answer has to be 3 only. But if UPSC says, because Vesara style means Nagara plus Dravida, and this temple has a shikhar which looks like a Nagara shikhar, then it becomes B. So B is also correct, C is also correct. We have to understand how the examiners looked at this question. So, see, Badami and Padakal are too late, Pratima, for them to have a Nagara style, and that is where you have Vijaya Nagara style or Hoysaleshwara style, Hoysala style, which is pure Vesara. The problem is that Ayol is a Vesara style, but early Vesara style, which is Chalukyan period, post-Gupta Chalukya. So here we purely have to wait for UPSC's understanding that is it B or C. But if you answered B and C, I understand both of your logics. I don't blame you in any form because the question is a trick question if the answer is B. If the answer is C, then it is a logical question. So again, this is a pure bouncer thrown at a student. But if UPSC gives B as the answer, then galat kiya. Then it is wrong. But if you've answered C based on the logic that, sir, these 3 are in Deccan, so therefore Vesara style. This is in Nagara style because North India. So let's see. But answer most probably is B. But I will not be surprised if it comes as C also. Now this, I think I discussed in the Jainism video also. It is directly given in the courseware on page number 83. And this is a question you have to get correct. Among the four main forms of existence of life recognized in Jainism, which of the following is not included? Which is Deva, human, and Triyancha, Deva and Manushya. Deva, Manushya, Triyancha. Yaksha Yakshi as it is a different cult. So therefore, this is not included in Jain philosophy. Jain philosophy. So very simply, question number 25. This is the easy question. This is a giveaway question. Now, this question, again, there are two ways of arriving at it. This exact image I discuss in class, I show it with regards to the understanding of how to understand Bagh painting also. But the name of this painting, nobody really talks about. They talk about Bagh, but they don't talk about name. Now, there are three ways of decoding this question, but if you left this question, fine. First is Bagh caves are Buddhist caves. So therefore, any depiction of Shiva and Parvati or Samudra Manthan will not be there. So you come to two answers, which is Buddha in meditative pose and joyous folk dance. Now, if you have answered either, not your fault, but here it says Hali sa Lasya. Lasya and Tandava, if you remember, is actually based on the concept of dance, which are two components of dance. So Buddha in a meditative pose is not this. A is the answer. Dance element is Lasya. So therefore, if you left this question, very good. If you attempted this question, A is the answer. We do discuss this in class, but not in direct reference to what is the name of it. But Bagh cave is basically the, you can say, trick here to get the answer. Now, this is called an unnecessary question. Leave it. I would have left it also. Why? Because it is based off a JSTOR article. No logic to give this question. No point of giving this question. And the answer here is all three statements, which is place value system. Earliest epigraphic use is in the Mankhani plates, 19th century general place values in Sanskrit. This, I don't even want to read this question because this question has such a background. It makes no sense. You will not find it in R.S. Sharma. You will not find it in standard books. You will not find it anywhere. This is an unnecessary question, makes no sense. If you've left it, I would have also left it. This is a pure bouncer. This does not define the pattern of the examination. Then this is a good question. This is a very interesting question, very good question. This I would like to congratulate the UPSC for. Again, can be solved through the courseware and its videos and the class notes. You can easily, because this is a conceptual question, needs basic understanding. That's it. Consider the following statements about the archaeological findings in Harappan towns. There's a wide occurrence of spindle whorls in the houses, but absence of spinning wheels. Weights and measure scales complete with graduations have been discovered. There are houses built with large part with baked bricks along relatively spacious courtyards with their own wells, bathing platforms, and large house. Now, if the question was which of the statements is correct, incorrect, then the question would have been difficult. But what the idea is, what inference, they've made it into a CSAT question now, what inference can be drawn from the above statements, which means that all these three statements are correct. 80 to 85. Now, statement 1 suggests that spinning was a laborious activity done at home. Totally correct. Totally correct. Statement 2 suggests that the extent of scientific knowledge of Harappans was there. We know that weights and measures were there. Totally correct. Then, statement 3 suggests the emergence of a common property system. This is a totally incorrect statement. Why? Central spacious courtyard does not indicate that people used to live in common spaces. There was segregated spaces for private residence, and that is a very well-known feature. Any book will not directly give you answer for this. But what a book can give you is conceptual clarity where you can apply it, you can get it. This is an easy question based on the way they've asked this question. Perfectly fine. Okay. See, again, Pratima, you don't have to question this point. We know that spindle and spinning wheel is related to the form of laborious activities of making cotton. Cotton is a very well known item which we find from Mehergarh period. Mehergarh first, IVC we know used to produce cotton. We all know that. This is where you have to use your base knowledge. Okay. Question number 29. Now this again is a difficult question. Why? Because they have mixed a very well known what we call as movement, which is Bardoli Satyagrah. Compete 10 out of the 20. The 10 questions which you can manage. Bardoli Satyagrah reason we already know. So the Bardoli part is easy to understand. But the Eka movement part is difficult to understand. What I mean by that is, see, the Eka movement was throughout supported and organized by the Congress, while Bardoli Satyagrah was initially independent of Congress influence. We know that this is incorrect because Bardoli Satyagrah is the same place where Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel got the Sardar. So therefore, this is an incorrect statement. Then, the Eka movement provided leadership by Talukdars of Awadh, and whereas Bardoli Satyagrah was a movement of landless laborers. Again, incorrect because the leader who's related to the Eka movement is Madri. Again, you may not know this, but he's not a Talukdar. Then the zone is given incorrect. Eka movement was in Varanasi, Mizapur. No. Nadan Awadh it was there. And Bardoli Satyagrah was not in Saurashtra but Surat sector. So the answer is basically the nature of the question. This is a tricky question. If you did it, okay. If you did not do it, not an issue. But Bardoli campaign was against the enhancement of land revenue, Eka movement against excessive extraction of rent. As directly mentioned here, which is, it was a revenue assignment issue. It was a revenue assignment issue. So what is that question, Pratima? You tell me. I'll try to answer it as we go on, right? Now, question number 30. Now, this is again an interesting question. Very interesting question. Here again, there are two ways of looking at it. But again, here I would like to congratulate UPSC. They found another way of asking history questions. So, good. If this is the pattern, let's go for it. But that inscription should not be the pattern. That tal should not be the pattern. The rag should not be the pattern. This is good. Now, consider the following statements about Rig Vedic period. Irrigation from wells allowed agriculture to expand away from floodplains and stripes on river margins in the present Punjab and Haryana plains, having underground water levels reasonably close to the surface. Drought animals power was employed to draw up water from the wells. Now, these two statements are from an academic resource, which is not even Upinder Singh. It's a UGC net level based understanding. So therefore, there is a certain, you can say, source which you may not read for GS, may read for optional. Now, which of the following information supports the above statements? Meaning, there should be enough evidence to prove the first two statements correct from the three statements which are given. There is evidence in Rig Veda of use of the Ashma Chakra, stone pulley, and a Ashva to draw up water. Totally correct. We don't have to question this in that regard. There is a history of use of oxen even before Rig Vedic period for plowing land and pulling the carts. This we know from IVC. This is also correct. Now, the second this statement 3 connects with statement 2. This statement 1 connects with statement 1. Now, the second statement is interesting. It says, mention has been made in the Rig Veda of the use of implements like Parushu, which is axe, and Shreni, which is sickle. Now, this is a totally correct statement. Now, the answer can be 1 and 3 only and 1, 2 and 3 only. How? Because how do you interpret it? How do you interpret it? Because Pratima's thread making process and cloth making process are two very different things. They can get thread from other places also, not from hand spinning at home, or in that regard, they can also weave outside. Now, if we say the word agriculture is mentioned and it's talking about agrarian expansion, then the second statement also gives us, in a way, supportive evidence for the first statement. But this is called the generic understanding. If you go for the specific understanding that there is no statement, either 1 or 2, which talks about agriculture, then the answer becomes C. Now, here again, I would say that B and C both can go ahead, but I would want to say B is the correct answer, because irrigation is supported by 1, agrarian expansion is supported by 2, because Rig Vedic period agriculture was limited but there, and third is then based on the idea of ox, which is a very well known thing. But again, B and C, official answer key will decide. If you've left this question, it is a more complicated question than the other one. Again, cannot be answered from one book directly. Now, this is again an interesting question. What was the point of asking this question made no sense, but they wanted to make questions out of Vedic age, and they came up with just some random stuff. In the Pleistocene period, either the Yamuna once flowed into the Indus or the Satluj flowed into the Yamuna, and one major tributary of either had shifted from Ganga to the Indus or vice versa. Now, you don't have to do anything with this information. Which of the following are the basis of the above assertion? The Nadi Shukta of Rig Veda, the exploration of Satluj by Robert Bruce Foote, the presence of some same species of dolphins in Indus and Gangetic River. Now, I trust that you have gone through the species of dolphins, and therefore this statement you already know is incorrect, because the same species is not there in the Indus or the Ganga. Similarly, Robert Bruce Foote, as mentioned in the courseware directly, is related to Pallavaram, is a one who's found Paleolithic tools, but is based on hand axes. So therefore, this is also incorrect. But if you knew the second one is incorrect, then automatically 1 or 3 had to be correct. But more than that, very easily, these are rivers. Nadi means river. Answer 1 only. Answer 1 only. Dolphin was also a guiding aspect here. At the same point of time, Robert Bruce Foote was also. So now some of you will say, sir, but how can the Nadi Shukta talk about modern rivers? They are not talking about modern rivers, because there is one more question which basically gives the old name of these rivers. The idea is here you basically needed logic. But in the exam context, I believe, and I know you may have not gone through it, I will tell you which question should have been done by you and which are directly from the courseware, and generally you can do in that regard. This. What does an empty seat represent in Buddhist iconography? NCRT directly says the meditation of the Buddha. But there are old books such as Krishna Reddy and all, they talk about D, but because the NCRT is considered a more authoritative resource, so therefore A is going to be the answer. A is answer here, simple, straightforward. But there are some people who will give you contradictory understanding also. But mostly empty seat means Buddha. This is easy to moderate based on your understanding, but Buddhist iconography has become standard in the examination. This is again directly out of the courseware, page number 63. The old name of rivers in Vedic period. Vedic age has made a, you can say, new debut in the UPSC examination. 3 questions were there, 2 were easy, 1 was difficult. That is good enough, you can say, probability. Which of the following ancient names and modern names are correctly matched? These 2 are actually reversed, and the name of Beas is not this. Only 3 is correctly matched. Only 3 is correctly matched. The answer is C. So as you can see here, Indus, Sindhu, Satluj, Sadru, Beas, Vipasa, Chenab, Aksini, Ravi, Parushni, Jhelum, Vitasa, and then we don't need the other ones. This is a easy question. Something which you should have done generally if you're preparing for UPSC. Now, this again needs logic, but difficult. This is a difficult question. Amravati Stupa is located in Lower Krishna Valley. Everybody knows that, generally. In India, it is next only to Sanchi Stupa in size. Amravati sculpture made a lasting impact on the later South Indian sculpture and products which were there in Sri Lanka. This is also correct. This is also correct. Why? Because there's an Amravati school of culture also. So you have Amravati school of sculpture, which means that therefore Amravati school would have already led to Peninsula sector to go. So we need options in which 3 is there. So 3, 3, 3, this is gone. We also need options in which 1 and 3 are together. So this is 1 here, this is 1 here. But now the question is, if you remember, again written in the courseware directly, Amravati Stupa, I used to say, is the most ornate. It is called Mahachaitya. Mahachaitya means it's a very big stupa. And the Sanchi stupa, it cannot be next to it, will be bigger than that. We do all the exceptional stupas, if you remember. Bharuch stupa, we discuss the Dhemek stupa. We also discuss the Sanchi stupa, but we also discuss Amravati stupa, Mahachaitya. So this statement is incorrect and the answer becomes 1 and 3 only. Again, difficult. I don't count it for you to be done. But see, UPSC is playing a game. It is what it is. Basically, if you get these, I'll tell you the question numbers. If you get those correct, you are sorted. This again is a easiest question possible. Which of them is not correctly matched? Directly out of the courseware, Chola, Pandya, Chera, Chora, Karikal, Chola. I do this in class, tell you, just learn the names. And then you have Nadunda Jelian, then you have Uday Jeral and Sengutavan. Sengutavan, Chera, Udayal Jera should be Chera, and Pandya, so therefore the answer is 2 only, B. 35. Very easy question. I hope for all the students who have been referring to the resources I've told you or referring to the course where you found this easy. So there are enough easy questions in the examination. Okay. Now this is an interesting question because it has certain statements which are easy, certain statements which are difficult, but is based on a basic logic that what was the stance of the Indian Communist Party and Indian Socialist during the period or build up to Second World War. Everybody knows that Subhash Chandra Bose made the forward block after Haripura and Tripuri session. Also mentioned in the ideological problems between Bose and Gandhi. So first statement, you have direct reference here. Then it says the Congress left was disunited and failed to support Bose. The communists did not support Bose in these endeavors. The supporters of M.N. Roy and socialist leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan preferred Congress unity on supporting Bose. Now, if you know what happened in Haripura and Tripuri session, you would know that the Bose wanted to start a movement, whilst Gandhi did not want to, and therefore the question was, how do the socialists put themselves? Because the Soviet Union was sitting on the fence at this point of time, the socialists did not really want to condemn the British. This is something we discuss in class. Therefore, the supporters of M.N. Roy wanted a united Congress. Correct. Why? Because that would be good for the examiner, not for the examiner rather, good for the British, good for the Soviet Union and their stance also. Then Congress left had been disunited and did not really support Bose. Correct. Because when he was creating this forward bloc, some supported, some didn't. But the Communist Party on his way to 1939 did support Bose. So therefore, the answer was 1, 2, and 4. Too specific. Something which again I would believe you will evade you. Because in the examination, after seeing so many questions so difficult, your brain may start to hallucinate. And therefore, something so obvious could have been missed. But a difficult question है किसी भी तरीके से I don't want to say demean your journey here by saying ये तो पता होना चाहिए था. I will not say that. This is a difficult question beyond exception and generally complicating something which is already very difficult to understand. But there is a video next to this table in the courseware. In that, I have had this discussion for sure. I've had this discussion. I have gone through all these different angles which were there in that regard. Right? Okay. This again is a very difficult question because everybody does permanent Rayatwari Mehalwari. Nobody talks about what happened to Awadh after its annexation. But here again, if you use logic, you may get the answer, which is what happened to Awadh after annexation. The talukdars were dispossessed of their estates but allowed to retain their arms and forts. This is obviously wrong. This is quite obviously wrong because the British, when they subdue somebody, why would they leave their forts and arms with them? Obviously wrong. So 1, 1. Now you have 2 only, 2 and 3 only, which means 2 is correct. The most difficult one is actually correct. Now, the British believed in taking revenue directly from the peasants by removing the talukdars. The first statement and the third statement are in a way helping each other. Therefore, the answer becomes 2 and 3 only. So this is, I will say, moderate question if you use logic. Very difficult question because there is no precedence to this type of question. Makes no sense to ask a question like this. Then, this again is a very good question. I would say good question. Good question. But ambiguous because of the use of words. The genesis of political alliance based on community lay in the very nature of Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, 1990. This is an assertion, which means genesis of political alliance based on community interest. Basically, the idea that all of us have different separate interests established in 1909. By the time by 1919 we come, the idea of community-based interest is established. Which of the following statements supports the above assertion? Reforms retained and extended the principle of separate electorates. Correct. Montagu-Chelmsford reforms did extend. Separate electorates were supported to counter Indian nationalism, which was growing stronger. Something we discuss in class, given in the courseware, everywhere. Then, very interesting thing. Very interesting. Deprived classes rallied around the favors inherent in separate electorates. Now, again, very interesting. They have not used the word depressed classes. And they're also not saying that depressed classes asked for separate electorates. They say that deprived classes could be minorities in general, women, Parsi, Sikh, everyone. And they are rallying for favors which are inherent or is based on separate electorates principle. Now, with that, perfectly correct. Answer becomes D. Answer becomes D. But there are certain interpretations which would say, however, depressed classes and deprived classes is equal, which I would not support. But there are people who will say that. And they will say that depressed classes rallied around the idea of separate electorates. That is, again, based on the idea that Dr. Ambedkar to Simon Commission said that we want separate electorates. Now, to be very honest, it is too long an interpretation and too specific an interpretation. I am reading this paper in English. Deprived classes automatically does not mean depressed classes. And therefore, depressed classes are including within deprived classes. But deprived classes are based on the idea that it includes everyone. Samar, if we go with that logic also, that you read it in Hindi, even if you read it in Hindi, it is still true because there were a lot of lobbies within the depressed classes other than Dr. Ambedkar who were asking from favors from the British to support their political understanding because it's talking about political alliances and political power. Therefore, it becomes extremely clear that the third statement will still stand. But again, I would still say, okay, C and D both are plausible answers based on the interpretation of the UPSC, but D should be the answer. C will be correct based on the idea that this word means depressed classes, which still, like the 1935 Government of India Act, still is problematic assertion. So D should be the answer. Again, we'll know within the next 24 hours what is going to be the answer generally of these questions. Last two questions, most unnecessary. I don't know why they've asked this question because Pandit Mallikarjun Mansoor died in 1992, which is close to 34 years ago. There is no specific news about him. There was nothing per se about him. He comes from the Jaipur and Aruli Gharana. Please leave this question. Please don't chase this question. Can't be learning the names of every Gharana and every person. There are too many people and I don't know why they've asked this question. But randomly कुछ भी वाली बात है. ठीक? And uske baad, this again, I don't get it. Which one of the following, amongst the following texts, does the term Kshetra Patni originate? If you Google something like this, it will say Rig Veda also, Atharvaveda also. But Kshetra Patni, it says. Kshetra Pati is given in Rig Veda, Kshetra Patni is given in Atharvaveda. But I don't know why you should know this. I'm equally astonished. But I would say that, see, UPSC has been doing this to history so many times that it should not come as a surprise to us. 2025 was good. 2024 was good. We had our good old days. This time, still, there are the following questions which you should be able to do. Question number 17, question number 23, question number 25, question number 28, question number 33, question number 34, question number 35, question number 38. These can be directly verbatim done from the courseware on Indian history directly from my book. And question number 22, question number 30, I can add 31 here also, question number 37. These need only logic. So therefore, out of the 20 questions, 12 questions can be managed per se. So I would still give you a discount of 2 questions. I will still give you a discount of 2 questions. And I believe that 10 questions should have been manageable. Separate electorates is extended in 1919 Act. Obviously, that is a Sandy. It was. So 10 questions. So I'll say sorry from the part of UPSC. Sorry, you had to go through this. Sorry. But does not mean that you have to feel disheartened. The question paper had 40 marks for UPSC history, which means that now you have to get the 20 which is needed. Nothing out of the box. Don't chase the paper. I hope you will get the, you can say, right set of questions correct. If you have not referred to the courseware, do that. If you have not referred to our classes, do that. But one thing is clear, only doing rote learning is not going to be enough. I'm going to start Modern India on 1st June in the Elevate batch at 7 a.m. I hope you will join me. Thank you so much. I will now give the baton to Hima ma'am, quite in a very happy fashion, looking at the questions. But don't feel disheartened, and I'm sorry on the part of UPSC. Bye bye.
Good evening, all of you. Welcome to the Science and Technology paper analysis. And this year, I'm very happy to say that there are around 18 questions from Science and Technology. With a little overlap with the other subjects, there are around 20 questions. And minimum 15 questions are directly from the various courses that we have taken on an academy platform and the YouTube. So let us now continue with the analysis. The first question is the question number 50. Okay. Consider the following statements about Mission Sudarshan Chakra of India. So firstly, what is Sudarshan Chakra? Okay. Sudarshan Chakra is a 10-year National Defense Initiative. It is used both as a shield and also as a sword. Shield means for defense, sword means for attack. It is for both. It is a multi-layer defense system and also an attacking system. It is particularly a defense against the aerial threats. Okay. And it can neutralize ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, loitering munition, different types of missiles and weapons it can neutralize. And the system is protective umbrella for not only strategic significance, also for the civilian application. It means it will also act as a shield over public places like hospitals, railways, and many other major important public areas. And for this question, the right answer is A. All the three statements are correct. Okay. Then moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to the AI Impact Summit 2026 held in New Delhi. Before I discuss this question, first of all, most of these questions are from which source? Are they from NCERT or basic sciences or from some textbook of science and technology or purely from the current affairs? I can see that out of 18, all 18 questions are from the current affairs. None of them are from the basic sciences or from any one particular textbook as such. So the current affairs is the key for science and technology preparation. Okay. So coming to the question number 55. Right. Consider the following statements with respect to the AI Impact Summit. So this summit is having three pillars: people, planning, progress. Not correct. It is people, planet, and progress. Did we discuss it in our courses? Yes. I kept a screenshot here. I'm sharing some screenshots of the sessions that I have taken to give you some confidence in what we are doing here, the effort that we are keeping here. So this particular question is from one of the sessions, and not only just speaking about the AI Impact Summit, particularly I mentioned the three pillars as well. The three pillars are people, planet, and progress, not planning and progress. So this is not correct. Then the preamble of the summit stresses democratizing AI resources. Okay, and it is also not a right option. The New Delhi Declaration on AI impact was structured around 7 chakras. Did I also mention the 7 chakras? Let us see. 7 chakras from the session screenshot, the list of the 7 chakras. So not only this question, any question that comes from AI Impact Summit, the students who have attended the classes could have solved it easily. So in one of the most unpredictable, one of the lengthiest papers and the most difficult papers, the science questions comes as a big relief, right? I hope, please let me know in the comments so that I can also be happy. Right. Then the right option is D, 3 only. The first two statements are not correct. So these are the points that we discussed in our sessions previously. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following terms of defense hardware are manufactured in India? Actually, our team categorized this particular question in the security, but still we discussed it elaborately in our science classes. So I also kept it. So these are the screenshot. Sukhoi 30 Mark 1, then battle tanks T-90 Bhishma, then nuclear powered submarines, Akula class submarines. Not only one of the statements, all the statements, Sukhoi 30 Mark 1, T-90 Mark III tank, and Akula class submarines, all the three statements were mentioned in the sessions that we have taken earlier. Sukhoi 30 Mark 1, battle tanks, and the Akula class submarines. And the right answer for this question, because security questions are already discussed, you might already know the answer. The right answer is A, 1 and 2 only, because Akula class submarines are Russian made, they are not indigenous. They are not manufactured in India, right? Moving on to the next question, question number 69. Which of the following statements about Dhruv 64 are correct? And I did not discuss this question, okay, in the classes. So I said around 15 out of 18 questions are from my notes. This is one of the questions which are not from my notes, okay. So it is a third chip fabricated under the DIRV program, correct? Then what are the first two chips? Tejas 32 and Tejas 64 are the first two chips. It is India's first homegrown 1 gigahertz 64-bit dual-core microprocessor, correct? Okay, and both the statements are correct. The right answer is C, both 1 and 2, right? Okay, then. And 70th question. The Bureau of Indian Standards recently introduced the national standard to test and assess the bomb disposal system. I did not teach this. This is one of the questions which I did not cover. Okay, the 2-3 questions which are not covered, this is one of them. And the right answer is 1 and 2. The new standard is known as IS 19445-2025, correct? Okay, and it will improve interoperability and equipment across the agencies, correct? And it was developed by TBRL DRDO in collaboration with Russia. No, it is not in collaboration with Russia, it is indigenous. Okay, so 1 and 2 are correct, 3 is not correct. Then moving on to the 71st question, one of my favorite topics, the Physics Nobel Prize on macroscopic quantum tunneling. So not only the Nobel laureates' names, okay, we also discussed elaborately on the concept. Okay, ex-born in UK was conferred the Nobel Prize in 2025. He was professor in American University when the prize was announced. Okay, did I mention this in our classes? Yes, this is a screenshot from one of the sessions, and this is from the marathon session, I believe, prelims crash course. Okay, direct from, I discussed this in multiple courses, UCAN sessions and marathon session, complete 2025 year current affairs, 2026 year current affairs, comprehensive course. In multiple courses, I have covered this. Okay, so this is the Physics Nobel Prize 2025 was for macroscopic, that is observable quantum tunneling, and these are the 3 Nobel laureates, right? Then moving on, and the right answer for this question is 71. C is the right answer. Then moving on to the next question, 74. Which of the following statements with regard to India's indigenous new resolution, high resolution weather model Bharat forecast system are correct? One only, A is the right answer. The objective is to generate forecasts at the panchayat cluster level, correct? And it was developed by IIT Delhi, no IITM Pune. It is developed by IITM Pune, right? Not IIT Delhi. A is the right answer, one only. And I hope in such a lengthy question paper, which looked more or less like a comprehensive reading comprehension paper, this relatively smaller questions from science came to a little relief in the exam hall, I believe, right? Then moving on to the next question, question number 76. Which of the following statements regarding the features of the blockchain technology are correct? Blockchain technology is a distributed, decentralized ledger. The records, what are the records here? These are nothing but the blocks. The blocks stored in the database may be made visible. They are visible to everybody. Every user can see the content, but no user can tamper the content. That is the plus point of blockchain technology. Okay, so all relevant stakeholders can see the data is visible. The data in the blocks is visible to all, but there is no risk of alteration. Everybody can see the data, no one can alter the data. Okay, so that is blockchain technology. So first statement is correct. Then the copies of the entire database are stored on multiple computers because every user will get a copy of it. That is the reason why we call it as a distributed ledger on a network syncing within seconds. All the users will be synced. Okay, whatever one user is seeing, Every user will see the same content. Okay, so the statement number 2 is also correct. Then what is consortium blockchain? It's a new point. So what is consortium blockchain? Let us try to understand first. Consortium blockchain is also called as federated blockchain. It is a semi-decentralized. It is not completely decentralized. What do you mean by completely decentralized? Everybody will get access. What do you mean by centralized? Only a centralized organization will get access. But here it is semi-decentralized, means neither completely centralized nor completely decentralized. Here, the permissioned ledger, okay, governed collectively by pre-selected group of organizations, not just one organization. Therefore, it is not centralized. Not anyone. Therefore, it is not decentralized. Only some pre-selected group of organizations or entities can watch it rather than a single entity or the general public. What will you call if it is accessible only to a single entity? Centralized. What will you call if it is accessible to the general public? Then decentralized. But it is consortium blockchain is a semi-decentralized one. Okay, it is a blend of public and private blockchains allowing selective data access. Okay, it's a blend of public and private. This makes it wrong. It is not public. Okay, the word public makes it wrong. Which exact word makes it wrong? Okay, the word public makes it wrong. Okay, then mathematical algorithm makes it. What is this mathematical algorithm they are speaking about here? This concept is called as proof of work. Okay, so it means before you edit the content in any, the data in any block, you have to solve a mathematical problem, which is called the proof of work. So this makes the process of hacking the blockchain very difficult and near to impossible. Okay, so 1, 2, and 4C is the right answer. Moving on to the next question. And these are the screenshots of the sessions in which I discussed this blockchain technology. Right? Then the next topic is also related to, the next question is also related to the blockchain technology or non-fungible tokens. Okay. Which of the following statements about real world assets, okay, tokenization are correct? So first of all, what do you mean by the word tokenization? Before we see what is tokenization, did I use the word tokenization in my class previously? Yes. Tokenization is nothing but digitization. Digitization. Okay. Right. And if you ask me, is the notes sufficient? If you observe this notes, in general, when I make a notes, I will keep myself in a student position. I don't feel like a teacher usually. So I keep myself in a student position. When I'm reading a notes or a textbook or something, the need to visit to a textbook or a dictionary or internet to understand certain words in the text irritates me. So when I make a notes, I will make sure that I will also give the meaning of the word there. So when I used the word tokenization, I just kept it as digitization. What is tokenization? Digitization of the content. So tokenization is the process of turning the real world assets into the digital tokens. So tokenization, digitization, both the words are used in the notes. So this is a topic that I have taken in a one-shot marathon in the Conquer Prelims program. Right? Then, so tokenization of the real world asset. What are the real world assets? For example, I want to sell my flat. Then I will digitize my flat and I'll keep it on a blockchain platform. Why do I digitize my home and keep it on a blockchain platform? Like an advertisement. Everybody will come to know that this is on sale and they can purchase it. Okay, right. Tokenization of the real world assets offer 24/7 access, promoting financial promotions, advertisements that, okay, this particular real world object is for sale. Okay, like that. Then tokenization of the real world assets will allow the access to high growth investment opportunities for the individuals. Yes, it is a new investment opportunity. So all the three statements are correct. A is the right answer. Okay, right. Good question, Pratima. When I said that around 15 out of 18 questions are directly from the notes, Pratima is asking, is it the same case in the previous years also? Happily, yes. Okay. And every year we are keeping the screenshots like this only. But let me be very frank, 2023 was a bouncer. In the year 2023, it did not happen. Except that year, in the last 10 years, in almost all the years except 2023, most of the questions are directly from the notes. So can I say that next year also the questions will come from my notes only? Absolutely no. I don't want to take any such risk. But one thing I can tell you, if the questions are not from the notes, then they are completely random and they will be undoable for anybody who prepare for this exam. That much I can promise you. Okay, right. Then coming to the next question, question number 85. Which of the following statements about rare earth elements? Actually, though our team categorized this into geography or some other subject, even we discussed in our science classes. Okay, so which of the following statements about rare earth elements and critical minerals are correct? Modern technological innovations including, did I mention about the rare earth elements? Yes, that's all. Or also I discussed about the modern technological innovations? Yes, look at here. This is a screenshot. Okay. Electrical vehicles, energy storage, electronics, defense technology, okay, phosphors. In all these areas, we use the rare earth elements or critical minerals. This is a question from a special class that we have taken on the YouTube, rare earth elements and India's critical minerals situation. This is a particular class only on, exclusively on rare earth elements and critical minerals, considering the importance of that topic. Okay, right. Tarak. Yes, I do agree. Tarak, you are correct. All word is where even I fell in a small confusion. In which question? Sudarshan Chakra you are talking about? All word can be little tricky. So there is a chance that the other option also can be correct. All word is a little bit extreme word. So can be little bit tricky. I agree. Okay. Right. Yes, correct. Correct. Okay. But due to some reasons, we finalized on that particular option. Let us see what the UPSC decides. Okay. Always umpire's decision is the final. All word is, of course, makes it little bit tricky. Right. Then, so we discussed about the applications as well. Then another statement, China has the highest share in mining of rare earth elements, followed by India. China highest, correct, but not followed by India. India accounts for only 1% of the like rare earth elements mining, and actually like the China is followed by United States, Myanmar and Australia, not India. India accounts for only 1% of the mining. Okay, so this is not correct. The government of India launched National Critical Minerals Mission. Did I also mention about National Critical Minerals Mission? Yes. Okay. National Critical Minerals Mission. Not only about the critical minerals, particularly about the mission also we have discussed in our classes. Okay, right. Then this is correct. And rare earth elements are a set of 13 metallic elements. No, they are not a set of 13 metallic elements. They are a set of 17 elements, 15 lanthanides plus scandium and yttrium. Okay, 15 lanthanides plus scandium and yttrium. So total 17, not 13. So the word 13 makes it wrong. The right answer is 1. Okay, A, that is 1 and 3. Okay, moving on to the next question. 91. Which of the following statements with regard to genetic medicine are correct? Did I discuss this question? My students will definitely say yes. But I did not use the word genetic medicine, but we elaborately discussed on gene therapy, CRISPR-Cas9, gene editing, etc. Okay, the word Genetic medicine, I did not use, but anybody knows that therapy means medicine in that case. Okay, you can say that. Okay, I have definitely discussed it in multiple classes. So genetic medicines correct or compensate for the faulty genes responsible for the disease? Yes, this is about the gene therapy. What is gene therapy? If there is any, for example, if my insulin gene is mutated and I'm suffering from diabetes, so delete that mutated insulin gene and add the correct insulin gene in that place. So that is nothing but the gene therapy or genetic medicine, correct? And engineered viruses and lipid nanoparticles, I discussed this in nanotechnology classes. Nanotechnology classes as an application of nanoparticles. What is the role of nanoparticles in the health technology? Nanomaterial can act as a carrier. It means, for example, if this is a lipid nanoparticle, inside that we can keep the gene and we can send it into the target cell. Okay, so we can use lipid nanoparticles and other nanoparticles, lipid nanoparticles and other nanoparticles as carriers to carry the gene therapy tools like CRISPR-Cas9, the correct version of the gene we have to add and all that. So this is correct. Genetic medicines alter the entire DNA sequence? No. Whatever mutated gene we have, that mutated gene will be deleted and a correct copy will be added. Why do we alter all the 23 pairs of chromosomes? So this is obviously not correct, right? Yes, Deepanshu, Pratima, it is not drug delivery, it is gene delivery. We are delivering the gene here, or CRISPR-Cas9 like gene editing tools here, right? So that is our question number 91. And the question number 92. And in this particular PPT, including the two questions which have overlap with security and geography, there are 20 questions. Out of it, 17 to 18 questions are directly from the notes. I claimed 18 because rare earth elements and that fighter jet submarines questions are categorized into the other subjects. But if you consider them, then it is 20 and around 17 to 18 questions. So only by reading the notes, you can get around 34 marks in this difficult paper. Imagine. 17 only by reading the notes. 34 marks you can get only by properly solving it. Yeah. So 92nd question is about the large language models. Which one of the following statements regarding the large language models used in machine learning? This is related to artificial, okay, artificial intelligence or machine learning, okay. Ram, in that case, you also have the key very much available. So please access the key. So we are here to share the knowledge, share the excitement, and share everything here, right? And the exam is over now. You still have one more year for the next exam. So I don't think that you should not waste this 1 or 2 minutes of your time, right? Then large language models assign probabilities to the next possible words. Then that pick one, which of the highest probability, correct? And then LLMs process data through mathematical optimization to minimize prediction errors, correct? And LLMs produce unbiased outputs, not correct. Okay, biased outputs. I mean, the large language models will try to support whatever you are asking. If I say something and if I ask, is it correct? It will prefer to say yes. The answers still given by the large language models are not completely reliable and they are biased. Is it clear? Then, so 93, question number 93. Which of the following statements with regard to stealth technology are correct? Stealth technology, stealing, hidden. Stealing or hidden. This is about remaining hidden. Okay, in the defense technology, let it be ships, warships, or any missiles, they need stealth technology. Why? To avoid being detected by the enemy's radars. Okay, stealth objects have very small radar cross section. So if you observe the exact word, low radar signature. Okay, look at how similar the word is. Low radar signature, and here it is about very small radar cross section. It means the radio waves emitted by the enemy's radars cannot be reflected by the missiles or the ships that are using the stealth technology. Okay, so this is correct. Stealth objects can be detected using specific frequencies. Yes, correct. If an object is stealth, is it really impossible to detect it? It is not like that. It is like a competition. One country will try to be stealthier and will develop stealth technologies, and the other country will try to develop effective radars, effective detection systems that can even overcome the stealth technologies. It's a competition between the two. So even the stealthiest missiles and ships can be detected by some specific frequency areas. Okay, correct. The stealth objects are coated with metamaterials. Are they coated with metamaterials? Correct. They are coated with metamaterials, but not to increase the scattering of the electromagnetic radiation, but rather to decrease. So this makes it wrong. So the right answer is C, 1 and 2 only. Is it clear? Then moving on to the next question. I discussed this in INS Taragiri. Moving on to the next question. Okay, which of the following statements with regard to black boxes, okay, in modern aircrafts are correct? Did I discuss it? No, I did not. This is one of the questions that I did not discuss. Okay, and what could be the reason for this question? Because of more plane crashes in the recent past, that could be a reason for this question. Okay, they carry a beacon emitting the red light. Do they carry a beacon emitting the red light? It is not correct. They carry a beacon that emits ultrasonic sound. Okay. So because of this, they are detectable. Okay. If the plane crashes into a water body, how the black box can be detected? As stated in this statement, are they detected using the red light? No, they are detected using the sound waves. Okay, so this is not correct. Okay, this is nothing but the ultrasonic sound. Ultrasonic sound waves, not the red light. Okay, then they record both the cockpit voice and the flight data. Okay, they do not record the flight data, they detect the cockpit voice. Okay, so therefore, okay, like, yeah, they record the cockpit voice and also the flight data. I'm sorry, okay, for creating a small confusion here. Okay, so 2 and 3, B is the right answer. 2 and 3, B is the right answer, right? Then, okay, then moving on to the next question, question number 95. Which of the following statements with regard to green hydrogen are correct? This is not correct because decarbonized hydrogen obtained from natural gas reforming combined with carbon capture and storage. This refers to blue hydrogen, not the green hydrogen. For green hydrogen, okay, the energy to split the water, okay, it is water hydrolysis. It is hydrolysis. Water will be broken down. Okay, so water will be broken down and hydrogen gas will be released by complete, okay, by complete renewable sources. Okay, for this we use renewable sources of energy. Okay, not the natural gas, not the natural gas. We use renewable energy sources to break the water and get the hydrogen in the green hydrogen. So the first statement is related to blue hydrogen. It is produced using electrolysis, that is water breakdown, as I explained here, using electricity generated by renewable sources. Correct. 2 is correct. National Green Hydrogen Mission of India aims for abatement of nearly 50 MMT of annual greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Correct. 2 and 3 are correct. B is the right answer. Okay, moving on to the next question, 96. Consider the following statements with regard to the involvement of the private entities in the India's space program. 1 and 2. What is InSpace? The Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. Look at the word Authorization Center. If any private company want to build a rocket or a satellite or something, any private company cannot build. Only authorized, only certified private companies can build them. Then who will authorize or certify which private company can build the rockets or the rocket engines or the satellites? InSpace is an authorization agency. It is one arm of ISRO which authorizes certain private companies so that only those companies can build the rockets or rocket engines or satellites or something. So that is correct. Agnikul Cosmos launched the world's first flight using 3D printed rocket engine. Correct. Skyroot Aerospace has developed liquid fuel, yes, but not for GSLV, for its own rocket. So this is not correct. 1 and 2 only, C is the right answer. And these are the screenshots here. About InSpace I discussed. Then Agnilet, Agnikul Cosmos I discussed. Then Skyroot Aerospace also I discussed. All the terms given in the statements are discussed, not just mentioning one of the words used in the question. Is it clear? Right. Then question number 97. Which of the following statements with regard to drone swarms are correct? Swarm drones means what? Okay, see. These are the swarm drones. This is from Conquer Prelims. This is from Conquer Prelims 2026. Swarm drones are a group of small drones. They can communicate with each other using artificial intelligence. Okay, a group of small drones that can communicate with each other using artificial intelligence. Okay, they use terahertz band frequency. Terahertz band frequency not needed. Statement 1 is incorrect. They do not use terahertz rather than terahertz. They use conventional radio waves. Normal regular radio waves are used in the swarm drones, not terahertz radio waves, not terahertz electromagnetic waves, which are high frequency. We don't need that. Normal conventional radio waves are sufficient for this communication. Okay, so this is not correct. Individual drones in the swarm can communicate with each other using AI. Correct. GPS spoofing. What is GPS spoofing? By the way, recently GPS spoofing also affected the civilian flights, not only swarm drones. What is GPS spoofing? It is a type of hacking where the hacker will give a wrong GPS signal, a fake signal that mimics the GPS signal. So thinking that the fake signal is the real one, they thinking that the fake one is a real GPS signal, they will go to that direction, that place where the hacker is diverting the vehicle. Okay, that is called GPS spoofing, faking a GPS signal. Okay, so this can affect the swarm drones. Yes. Okay, GPS spoofing can affect swarm drones, correct, but not only swarm drones, many other flights and other drones also can be affected by GPS spoofing. Okay, then moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements with regarding to Genome India project are correct? It is a part of Human Genome Project. Not correct, because this is a worldwide project. This is worldwide, whereas Genome India is only Indian Human Genome Project. The project is funded by the Department of Biotechnology. Correct. Its primarily aim is to build a catalog of genetic diversity of Indian population. Correct. So B, 2 and 3 is the right answer. Moving on to the end, this is the content on Genome India project. This I discussed in Complete Science and Technology for UPSC on the YouTube. Then question number 99. Okay. Which of the following statements with regard to the National Quantum Mission are correct? Both 1 and 2, both the statements are correct. So it aims to develop 50 to 1000 physical qubits, correct? Its implementation includes setting up 4 thematic hubs, correct? The National Quantum Mission is implemented through 4 thematic hubs, correct? Both the statements are correct, both 1 and 2. Moving on to the last question, okay? And this is like National Quantum Mission on Science and Technology Marathon Part 2, okay? Right. Last question. Which of the following statements with regard to India's deep ocean mission are correct? It was launched by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. No, it is incorrect. It is launched through Ministry of Earth Sciences, not the Ministry of Waterways, Government of India. It is launched through Ministry of Earth Sciences. So this is not correct. The ministry they have quoted. And if you remember in the classes, I have also told you that you should also check under which ministry a particular thing comes. Okay, though I do not insist so much on that during the classes, because during the classes I focus more on explanation of the concepts, but I clearly told you that you should also focus on under which ministry a particular topic comes. Matsya 6000 has been designed to carry 3 people for deep sea exploration, correct? Okay, and this deep sea mission is to boost the blue economy. For a country like India with enormous coastline, blue economy is very important, and the projects like Deep Ocean Mission are very important. Samudrayan is a project under the Deep Ocean Mission. Deep Ocean Mission, correct. 2 and 3 are the right answers. B is the right answer. That's all for the science and technology part of the prelims 2026 analysis. I hope these science questions brought a little bit relief in your difficult paper. Thank you so much.